Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our City Council meeting. Today is Monday, March 16th, 2020. It's approximately 1 p.m. Before we have our Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to ask if you please rise for a brief moment of silence as we reflect back on the brave men and women of the United States military as they protect our interests around the globe, as well as the courageous men and women of the Las Cruces Police Department and Las Cruces Fire Department as they keep our city safe 24/7, 365. Councilor Flores, you join me in the pledge, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So Jennifer Martinez, from our communications office, normally introduced our pet of the week, but due to the fact that the Animal Services is currently on leave, she doesn't have the pet, but she has some other pertinent information she'd like to share with us.
That's right. I'm Jennifer Martinez with the city's communications office, and I won't speculate whether it's illness or planned leave, but there was no pet available for today. But I would still like to remind you about pet licensing. Pets in Las Cruces must be registered and licensed, and you can do so through the Animal Service Center of the Mesilla Valley. You will also need proof of the pet's current rabies vaccination, microchip, and sterilization that is required. Fees in Las Cruces for an altered pet, the cost is $7 per year, and unaltered pets, the cost is $50 per year. And if you're a senior citizen with an altered pet, the cost is $5 per year, and you must provide proof with a valid photo ID. Now, the gravity of the situation of COVID-19 concerns, I do want to bring up the ability to practice healthy habits. We remind you to wash your hands regularly with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Stay home if you are sick, except to get medical care. If you need to cough, we ask you to do so into your sleeve or a tissue, and to avoid contact with people who are coughing or sneezing. You can get these tips at newmexico.gov, and we also have on our city website, los-cruces.org, tips and other news-related items that are coming across pretty much as they come across, so you can check that if you would like some updates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jennifer. So now we have, we do this every so often when we have certain milestones with city employees, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years of service. And so we have 5 today that we'd like to recognize. Is Ben Edwards here? Ben, come on down. Ben's an electrical building inspector in the Community Development Department. So this is a certificate of appreciation. So this says certificate of appreciation, certify that Ben Edwards has rendered valuable and distinguished service to the city of Las Cruces, New Mexico, 15 years. And this certificate is issued in recognition thereof by the City Council on behalf of the citizens of the city of Las Cruces, New Mexico, dated the 16th day of March, 2020, signed by myself and City Manager Bill Studer. So I'll give you the old elbow. Yep. Congratulations. You're welcome to say some words if you like. Do you want a quick photo? You want a photograph? Okay, so next is going to be Lanny Lujan. And she's a library assistant under the Quality of Life Department, 20 years. So this is the certified Lanny Lujan. Is that pronounced right?
Laney.
Laney. Okay, kind of like how Seinfeld calls Elaine and Laney.
Yep.
All right. Have rendered 20 years of service for the city of Las Cruces, and so we'd like to present you the certificate.
Thank you.
Did you care to say something?
No, thank you. Thank you, Beth. Thank you.
How about John Guadarrama, traffic investigator, police department, 25 years. Wow. So this again, certificate of appreciation, 25 years, the city of Las Cruces. Thank you. There you go, John. So I had to verify this when I was signing this. Leti Garcia, 30 years of service. So you started in elementary school, I guess, huh? Congratulations. Say something? 30 years? How did you last 30 years? Okay. That's a long time, 30 years, any job. Okay, and this one here is a retirement. James Mitchell, Case Manager, Quality of Life Department, 11 years. James? Thank you for your service and congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
Okay, so that takes care of that. Now we have, I think Councilor Flores is going to help out on this. There's an award presented to the Arrowhead National Honor Society students.
What do I read? Thank you for holding my hand. Well, this one for now and then this one later. Okay, thank you. Arrowhead National Honor Society students, Mayor's Citation for Community Service, March 16, 2020. Every so often I have the honor of recognizing a group of students in our community who makes a positive impact in the Las Cruces area. Today, I am honored to recognize the Arrowhead National Honor Society students for all they do for our community and present them with the Mayor's Citation for Community Service. The National Honor Society was established in 1921 and has chapters in all 50 states and around the world and includes over 1 million student members. The 4 pillars of membership are scholarship, service, leadership, and character. The Arrowhead Park Early College High School has over 150 members who are active within our community. Over the past 3 years, they have served as a core group of volunteers for various community events hosted by the city. Through their volunteering at city events, they have given more than 1,000 hours of service. Events include city tree lighting, downtown concerts, Las Cruces Space Festival, and the Arts and Cultural District's Facade Squad, among others. Always proven to be capable leaders, and when given an assignment, they always exceed expectations. Role models for other young people in our community and act as positive ambassadors for the city of Las Cruces. Is this, no? Mayor's Certificate of Appreciation presented to Maria Alejandra Solis, President, National Honor Society. Kilan Aguilera, Vice President. Kilan Aguilera, Vice President, National Honor Society. Mayor's Certificate of Appreciation presented to Arrowhead Park Early College High School National Honor Society in recognition of your commitment and dedication in helping to make Las Cruces a better community. dated the 16th day of March 2020. Ken D. Miyagishima, Mayor. Do you take this? No, there was. Oh, they already, how did they get them? Magic. Oh, thank you. The fairies are on my side. So let me present it to you, yes. Mayor's Certificate of Appreciation presented to Ernest Castillo, Treasurer, National Honor Society, in recognition of your commitment and dedication in helping to make Las Cruces a better community. Thank you. Mayor's Certificate of Appreciation presented to Iris Gutierrez, Liaison, National Honor Society, in recognition of your commitment and dedication in helping to make Las Cruces a better community. Thank you. And this is.
Savian Calderon, is she here?
Yes.
Oh, he?
Yeah.
He? So I'm going to turn this over to Councilor Flores and Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, because they have a little bit more of a write-up on what a fantastic job that you did. So we'll be here to do the elbow bump. But
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Either one.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are so happy to make this presentation today. The Las Cruces community, what is it? Las Cruces let me start all over again. No, the Las Cruces Public Schools, community schools, had a competition to arrive at our logo. We are a joint powers between the city of Las Cruces and the Las Cruces Public Schools. So we decided we need our own logo. So we had a competition, and there were many, many students who participated. They're all heroes. They were all honored in February at Lynn Middle School. But today we have Savian Calderon, whose contribution or his submission was the one that was agreed upon. So I would like to present this to you, Savian. Savian Calderon, Community School Logo winner, in recognition of your commitment and dedication in helping to make Las Cruces a better community. And I wish I had a list of all the students who did it was beautiful artwork. Thank you. Thank you very much. Felicidades. I wish we had the names of all the students to present to you. Maybe we'll submit them later. But the artwork was just incredibly beautiful. And so what Savian did was super, and we'll be using it on all our stationery and everything that goes out. And thank you again so much. And thank you, Mama, and thank you, sister. Little bunny ears. And thank you, Mr. Greenberg is here, who's the Director of Community Public Schools for LCPS. Would you like to say a few words, David?
Sure, it'd be great. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, Mayor Pro Tem Gondara. We are so proud of Savian and all of the incredible students at Lynn Community Middle School. And we just wanted to take a second and extend a heartfelt thanks to the City of Las Cruces for your leadership in this movement. We were able to launch 3 additional community schools. and it's due to your incredible leadership. So we knew that this is a unique movement because it's not just one organization who's leading it. It's many, many organizations. And if we listed all the logos, it would take many pieces of paper. So it made sense to have one logo, and it made sense to have a student make that logo. And thanks to you all for that brilliant idea. Thanks to Savion and his family for making that happen. So excellent.
Let's do a picture.
No, how about thank you? ¿Quieres decir thank you? ¿En inglés o español? ¿O en francés?
Thank you, everybody.
I'd also like to recognize the coordinator of Lynn Middle School's community school, Silvia Chavez. Thank you for all your work, for the wonderful job you're doing there, and for making it a role model for all the other community schools which are going up. I've always believed that community schools is really the answer to having a community really joined together by our children, through our children. And it's also for the families. So thank you, Sylvia and David and Silvan. Okay. Is David Chavez here? I don't see David. Should I read it anyway? Is anybody here from the Las Cruces Arts and Cultural District? Well, should I read it? Okay. So,
We
we
can hold off till next time if they're not here. If no one's here to
no one's
receive
here
it,
to,
we can just hold off and go to the next one.
so we'll hold off?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is Space Festival Week. Is anybody here for Space Festival Week, or are you spacing out on us? As David did. What are we going to do? So, nobody's here from Space Week? Boy, are they self-quarantined? Okay. Well, I guess we'll do that one too. How about National Athletic Training Month? Yes. Okay. I knew you'd be here. Okay. So, whereas athletic trainers have a long history of providing quality health care for athletes and those engaged in physical activity based on specific tasks, knowledge, and skills acquired through their nationally regulated educational processes, and whereas athletic trainers provide prevention of injuries, recognition, evaluation, and aggressive treatment, rehabilitation, health care administration, education, guidance, and whereas the National Athletic Trainers Association represents and supports 39,000 members of the athletic training profession employed in the following settings: professional sports, colleges and universities, high schools, clinics and hospitals, corporate and industrial settings, military branches, and whereas leading organizations concerned with athletic training and health care have joined in a common desire to raise public awareness of the importance of the athletic training profession and to emphasize the importance of quality health care within the settings, and whereas such an effort will improve health care for athletes and those engaged in physical activity and promote athletic trainers as health professionals, now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2020 as National Athletic Training Month and urge all the people of Las Cruces, New Mexico to learn more about the importance of athletic training. Andres Rivera? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like to say some words?
I'd like to thank everybody here for giving us the time to actually promote our profession. And again, just thank you. Thank you to Michael Gregory, Kim O'Connell, our program directors and clinical coordinators for pushing us forward to help promote this profession. And a lot of you, I know a lot of you in the community, if you got children or in high school competing in athletics, take time out, thank their athletic trainer for helping keep them safe, keeping them healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Andres.
Yeah, we appreciate that very much, and sorry, it's a kind of a limited ceremony here. We're just trying to keep everybody safe. And thanks for coming out today.
Okay. Sit down.
Councilor, I think you have one more. I do. Oh, was it a presentation? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. So, Mr. Harold Morris, who's going to be making a presentation on Black History Month. So thank you for coming out here today. Is the mic not on? Can you talk directly?
Hello.
There
hello.
you go.
Okay.
Okay. And just
To the mayor, mayor pro tem, council members, and to the audience, here, excuse my back. I wish to speak for Black History Month, which was last month, and I know this month is the month.
Excuse me, sir. Can you state your name? I'm sorry. I know I mentioned it.
Okay. I'm Staff Sergeant Harold Morris, retired from the U.S. Army, 32 years, and I worked for Phelps Dodge Copper for 10 years in Silver City. I'd like to just present some of my history from the age of 6 to age 40, I guess, in Las Cruces. We came from Louisiana. My stepdad, Thomas Morris, printed the Las Cruces Sun News for 18 years. He followed Mr. Orville Priestley here from Crowley, Louisiana. My mother, give an honor to her, lived to be 82. She died of pancreatic cancer. So I know I have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to cover it all. I've been talking to the public since I was about 7 years old at Booker T. Washington School. I learned Spanish from Mrs. Chavez, who I think came from Lucero School to teach us Spanish when I was 7 years old, but I've been in 10 countries, and I can say greetings in 10 languages. I also attended NMSU. You'll forgive me, it's not so much nerve, folks, but a lot going on here. I'm a survivor. I lost my 2 sons. I had a son died of drugs 12 years ago. My other son committed suicide in a marriage at 21. Janice Jones' next brother, Freddie Jones, was murdered at age 28. My older brother was killed in a motorcycle accident when I was in Vietnam. I came back for his funeral. As you can see so far, I've done a few things. I've been in France, Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, Denmark, Spain, Austria, Thailand, Vietnam, and Mexico. Joanne Jones is my sister. She worked almost 30 years for the county. I attended NMSU. I sang with the choir. I also went to All-State Chorus in high school for 2 years. I think that's all I wish to say now, and I thank you for the opportunity, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Morris, Mr. Morris. So first off, thank you for your service to our country and all the contributions that you've made. But I just have to ask, so are you going to take credit for teaching Janice how to sing?
What's that, sir?
Are you going to take credit for teaching Janice how to sing?
Well, you know what? I've only heard her sing once or twice, but I will take this credit. I knew your dad, sir, and I'm probably among the oldest in this room. I'm 80 years old. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, so now we're going to go to conflict of interest. This is where I'll ask if any member of the city council, city manager, or member of the city staff has any known conflict of interest on any item on the agenda.
None.
None. None.
Okay, seeing none. Now we're going to go to public participation. This is where any member of the public can speak to council for up to 7 minutes, not to exceed twice during the council meeting. All that we ask is that it not be pertaining to something that's on the council agenda, unless, of course, you have to leave, or that is pending litigation. I usually start on my left, and I usually start on the beginning rows, but for those of you who are wondering why we have these pieces of paper here saying not available, it's just we're trying to keep in order with the governor's request to limit our number of people or gatherings to 50 total, as well as 6 feet apart. So that's why you see it like this. So I appreciate staff taking care of that. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th row. Anyone? 6th row, 7th row. Kevin? I was hoping to see Vince Jeffers here, kind of bring back some normalcy, but I guess he decided to stay away.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, my name is Kevin Bixby. I'm the Executive Director of the Southwest Environmental Center. And I'm here to speak in support of a resolution that Councilor Vasquez will discuss with all of you at the end of the meeting today. So I'm here to give some support in advance of that, and hopefully you'll be voting on that resolution at a later date. The resolution basically supports federal funding for a study by the National Academy of Sciences to look at ways to improve the efficiency of operation of the Rio Grande system in New Mexico. You probably know that, well, it's not just New Mexico, but throughout Colorado, New Mexico, and West Texas. You know that the river has several dams on it. There are different reservoirs. There's a Rio Grande Compact that allocates water among the 3 states. We have an international treaty with, actually 2, with Mexico that divvies up the Rio Grande waters between the 2 countries. It's a very complicated system, and it was, it's evolved over the years, going back 100 years to when Elephant Butte Dam was completed. But it's probably not very efficient. A lot of water is lost to evaporation out of the reservoirs, in particular, the reservoirs that are in southern New Mexico, Caballo and Elephant Butte. I think Elephant Butte Reservoir, the evaporation alone is the biggest single water user of the Rio Grande in the upper basin. So this study would look at ways of changing the way those reservoirs are operated, changing the ways that water is stored, and in order to look for savings of water. And I can tell you, we all need to use water more efficiently. The river is fully appropriated today. Under climate change models and predictions, there's going to be less water available in the river. I've worked for more than 20 years at the Southwest Environmental Center to try and restore the Rio Grande to ecological health, and I know how super constrained the system of management is by the very finite amount of water. So if we can find water by doing things more efficiently, that's a great benefit to all of us. I think someone once said that reservoirs are a great way to dry out water in the desert, and that's really true. So I encourage you to support this resolution, to have a study done, to get the funding from Congress, to have a study done by the National Academy of Sciences, independent, objective body, looking at how we can do things differently and better in the Rio Grande. Thank you.
Kevin, one of the advantages I get is that over the others, I get to ask you a question when it's not on the agenda. But let me just ask you a question. So I was under the understanding that the pact takes into account the water that's flowing, that Texas knows exactly how many gallons or whatever they do it based on per minute that flows. Is that kind of what you're aware of? And the reason why I ask is this: if I don't think, or do they also take into account how much they think goes into the aquifer? Do you know anything about that?
I'm sure somebody is taking into account seepage into the ground, aquifer recharge, evaporative losses, all that stuff, losses to evapotranspiration by plants, et cetera.
Okay, because if it turns out that it's to our benefit, because I was just of the impression it was just water that was flowing from the river down into Texas, and if that study shows that, hey, there's so much more water being held up that eventually we get because it goes into our aquifer, it seems like it might penalize us. So I don't know. I mean, I'm supportive of whatever we can do to make sure that we have the proper method of calculation, but, that's something, I don't know, kind of, it's like once we do it, then it could be used against us if it turns out, against us, I would think, I don't know, but I would tread carefully on that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, and I'm sure all the stakeholders will watch such a study very carefully and make sure that their interests are, well advanced. And that's why it's important for a body like the National Academy of Sciences to do it, because they are independent and objective and some of the best researchers in the country. And evaporation, I just want to say, evaporation off of the reservoirs doesn't benefit anybody. I mean, it's lost to us. It goes up and it becomes part of the hydrological cycle. It falls as rain somewhere, but not necessarily in the Rio Grande Basin.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Kevin. I just thought I'd ask you that.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was the 7th row. It looks like the next row is staff as well as the last row. All this side on my left, it looks like staff. First row, taken care of. Third row? Henry, were you here to talk? 5th row, looks like staff. 6th row, there was supposed to be a space in between you all. 6th row, looks like staff. Looks like 7th is staff. And in the back, staff as well. No one else wants to speak? Okay. So that concludes our public participation. I have 2 closed meeting statements I need to read. Okay, so first one is Las Cruces City Council met in closed session at 8:55 a.m. on March 4th, 2020. The following members were in attendance: Councilors Flores, Sorg, Bencomo, Abeta Stuvi, Gondara, and myself. I left at 9:45 a.m. Staff present, beginning at 9:45, was Jennifer Vega Brown, City Attorney, Barbara De Leon, Interim Assistant City Manager, Jan Reichart, Novak Consulting, Amber Vaughn, Interim Chief of Staff, and Joe Richards, HR Director. The meeting adjourned at 1:15 p.m. And for the record, Las Cruces City Council met in closed session only discussed those limited items as stated in the posted notice. Purpose of the closed meeting was to discuss limited personnel matters regarding the city manager candidates, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978. And the candidates that were discussed were David Dallahan, Gregory Martin, Veronica Soto, William Studer, and Kenneth Young. The next closed meeting statement, Las Cruces City Council met in closed session at 10:31 a.m. on March 9th, 2020. The following members were in attendance: Councilors Flores, Abeta Stuvi, Gondara, and myself. Councilor Bencomo came in at 11 a.m. Mayor Pro Tem Gondara left at 11:40 p.m. So we did have a quorum throughout the whole time. Staff present was Jennifer Vega Brown, City Attorney, David Dallahan, Assistant City Manager, Bill Studer, Interim City Manager, Barbara De Leon, Interim Assistant City Manager, Joe Richards, HR Director, Eric Enriquez, Fire Chief, David Maestas came in at 11:20 and out at 11:50 a.m. Also present in the earlier was Griselda Martinez, Economic Development Director, and Bill Ham, Land Manager. Meeting adjourned at 12:30 p.m. And for the record, Las Cruces City Council met in closed session and only discussed those limited items as stated in the posted notice, which was 1, to discuss the bargaining strategy preliminary to collective bargaining negotiations with Las Cruces LCPF IAFF Local 2362, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H, number 5. Basically, that was the firefighters union. Number 2, to discuss the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H, number 8. And number 3 was to discuss limited personnel matters related to the interim city manager, was closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H, number 2. Okay. And now we're going to go to acceptance of the agenda. And before we remove items, I'd like to have item 8.1 moved to the very beginning, even before consent agenda. So keeping that in mind. And then I'm sure I think some council members wanted to have some items removed from the consent agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Master, it's almost the same. I would like to pull item number 7.4, please.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Let me just take a deep breath here. I'd like to pull 7.10, 7.11, and table, is this an appropriate time? Not yet? Okay. Those I would like to.
Which is the one you want? Is it the one that you want to table? Is that on resolution ordinances for discussion?
Yes.
Oh.
No, yes, it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so any other changes? If not, I need a motion and a second.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Sorg, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, with moving 8.1 in front of all the consent agenda items, while removing 7.4, 7.10, 7.11 for discussion. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve the agenda with the removal of items 7.4, 7.10, 7.11 for discussion, and to hear item 8.1 first. Councilor Abeyta-Stube.
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Sorg.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Councilor Gondara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, 8.1 is Resolution 20-122.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Sorg, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, and Rob Cabello from our City Attorney's Office will discuss.
Afternoon. I'm Robert Cabello with the City Attorney's Office. I'm here to present a resolution regarding approving a contract for David Maestas to become the interim city manager. David Maestas has been with the city for 25 years. He was the former transportation director, he's a civil engineer, and he's the current director of public works. The contract is for an indefinite period, but really 6 months at the pleasure of the council. The base salary is for $160,000 per year. There's a residency requirement and a use of a vehicle, and go ahead and open up to questions.
Thank you, Robert. Well, I think we have the information that was presented from last meeting, as well as public statements that was, public news release that was given out. I just want to take a moment to thank Bill Studer for our interim. I know it's been a while, and you've done a great job, and we appreciate all that you do. And this is another opportunity to allow a high-ranking official to take the helm of the city during this next process, and allow us to still further deepen our bench, so to speak. And so I appreciate you, Bill, and I appreciate David being willing to take on this job in such a trying time. I mean, this is really, there's no honeymoon. You're right into the frying pan here. So if there's nothing further, okay, then I'll call for the vote. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 20-122. Councilor Abeyta-Stube.
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Sorg.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Councilor Gondara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Thank you, Bill. Okay, while David makes his way up here, we have Yeah, I'm sure David was probably wondering the last week, definitely the last few days, congratulations, David. You getting copies, and you're probably thinking, I'm not even getting paid yet for this, but I know that you weren't in this for the money. In fact, you almost didn't want to take this increase in salary, but little did we know that you were definitely going to be earning it right now. I mean, it's a lot, so we appreciate you stepping up to the plate. Mhm. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is item 7.4, and I need a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Vasquez, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, and David Dahlhan will discuss.
Mayor, members of council, good afternoon. Before you is a resolution to make the appointments in accordance with city ordinance for the Transportation, Sustainability, and Infrastructure Policy Review Committee. Under the PRC purpose that was defined in the ordinance of the municipal code related to these committees, it's to formulate recommendations in an advisory capacity to city council. It's related to the transportation of people, ease of access to goods and services that support our economic sustainability and environmental health for the long-term viability of the city. It includes within that statement the maintenance of city facilities, roadways, utilities, and other physical infrastructure in accordance with the city's adopted strategic plans and the city's most recently adopted comprehensive plan. Under the board ordinance at the last meeting, we asked for councils to be named to the position. That is included within the resolution. It is limited to 3, and they are Councilors Vasquez from District 3, Councilors Bencomo from District 4, and Councilor Sorg from District 5. Within the resolution, there are 4 non-ex officio members that can be named. Staff, based on the purpose statement, listed these 4, and there are some options on there. In accordance with the ordinance for establishing PRCs, you can expand that to 3 additional members, up to a total of 7 ex officio members. If that's the desire of the council, you would need to amend this ordinance today to list those other ex officio positions, and then we'll bring back a further amendment to the ordinance to increase the ex officio from 4 to whatever number is finally decided. For what's listed in the resolution before you, a representative from NMDOT would be listed, and either a representative from the New Mexico Environment Department or New Mexico Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department, a representative from the Las Cruces Green Chamber, and a board member from either the South Central Regional Transit District or South Central Solid Waste Authority that is a non-city member to those respective boards. So with that, those are your options, and we'll be glad to discuss further as the council sees fit.
Thank you, David. Councilor Sorg, Councilor Vasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Dahlhan, for that presentation. Yes, when I saw this, I was looking it over, and it's a committee for transportation, sustainability, and infrastructure. And I see from the ex officio members you have, the Department of Transportation covers the highways, state and federal highways that are in their area, and the Environment Department and the Energy and Minerals and Natural Resources covers the sustainability part of this committee, and as well as the Green Chamber does. And the South Central Regional Transit District and the South Central Southwest, no, whatever that S is there.
South Central Solid Waste Authority.
Solid waste, that also covers the sustainability and the infrastructure, and the transportation by the transit district. But we have infrastructure in the city that is not represented in that list, and that's all the streets we have in the city and all of the other infrastructure we have along with the streets. So I would like to propose that we add a member that represents the development, the home builders, and those people. Just one more member to it. These are non-voting members, but their input might be useful at times. So-
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, if that's the desire of the council, that would need an amendment to this resolution to add that membership.
Yes.
And you can do that by amending it. And then we'll bring back an ordinance to increase the membership of ex officio members by one more. I will remind all members of the council that these committees, the policy review committees, will be staffed. And so staff are non-voting members. They're the staff. So transit will be represented, public works, utilities, and the like will all be represented from a staffing perspective, working for the committee. But we can definitely include the home builders associations or someone. The Home Builders Association is also included as one representative on the Housing Committee, Housing PRC.
Okay. And developers, too.
Yes.
So I would like to make that amendment, Mr. Mayor, to add that one more member from that part of our stakeholders and segment of our
Mr. Mayor,
city.
Councilor Sorg, are you talking the Home Builders Association or a representative of the development community?
Yeah.
Is that how you would like that worded?
Yeah, that'd be good enough.
Okay.
The home builders have developers in there too, as I understand, yeah.
Okay, so your amendment is to add the Las Cruces Home Builders as another ex officio member? Or is that,
As one more, yeah.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Sorg, second by Councilor Flores. Any questions on the membership? Councilor Beta-Stuvi?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilor Sorg, I was going to ask you if that's something that the home builders have reached out to you and indicated that they were interested in becoming a member of this.
Yes, they actually did, right. They asked me about it.
Okay. Anyone else? Mayor Pro Tem?
Mayor, thank you, David, for your presentation. Councilor Sorg, are you asking for just one in addition, or the way I read it was 4 non-ex officio people? Are you asking for it to be changed to 7 to have the flexibility?
No, I'm just asking for one more ex officio representing the Home Builders Association.
Okay. It would seem like you should add 7 so that you have some flexibility in your being able to select who you want to when the time comes. That would be my recommendation. But you're looking at me very confused.
I don't
like.
understand. What do you mean by 7? This would be 5.
I think Mr. Dollahan spoke of this is 4, and then you have the flexibility to add up to 7.
Yes. And
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Gondar, Councilor Sorg, you'll need to know within the resolution, without the amendment, NMDOT is 1. The next 2, either the Environment Department or Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources, you will eventually have to appoint only one of those 2, also 1 from the chamber, and then 1 from either SCRTD or South Central Solid Waste Authority. If you want to appoint all of those, you would have to remove the "or," and with the Home Builders Association, that would get you to 7 if you wanted to do that.
And if I may chime in, Mayor Pro Tem, I know we're speaking on this amendment, but I was going to suggest 2 additional positions in different categories that would bring us up to 7 following Councilor Sorg's amendment.
I would entertain that. My amendment could be changed to add those other 2, yes.
Okay, well, since yours is on the table, and I mean, since on the dais, and we have a motion second, if there's nothing further, we'll just vote on this, and then we'll go to Councilor Vasquez.
That's fine.
Any further questions? Members of the public? Okay, this is on the amendment. Christine?
This is on the motion to amend Resolution 20-115 to add another ex officio member from the Las Cruces Home Builders Association. Councilor Abeyta-Stube?
No.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
No.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Amendment passes.
Okay, now we're to Councilor Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to suggest adding 2 other ex officio members to make it 7. I would like a member from an environmental nonprofit in the community. And I would like to add a member from the business community. I'm thinking if we are going to be talking about solar issues, that perhaps a solar industry business member might be good, but also knowing that this is the committee that will potentially be discussing a plastic bag ban. Perhaps a restaurant owner might also be good, or a grocery store owner. So I would just want to leave it open to just business member for one category, and another as an environmental nonprofit.
Okay, did you put that in the form of motion?
And yes, I would like to amend this ordinance to include the addition of an ex officio member of an environmental nonprofit and an ex officio member of a business member in our community.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Vasquez, second by Councilor Sorg. Any comments? Members of the public? Seeing none on the amendment. Christine?
This is on the motion to amend Resolution 20-115 to add an ex officio member from an environmental nonprofit and a business member. Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey.
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Sorg.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Councilor Gondara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, so now we're on the main motion with 3 additional members, ex officio members added. One from the Las Cruces Home Builders Association, one from the member of the business community, and one from an environmental nonprofit. There's no further questions? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 20-115 as amended. Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey.
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo.
Yes.
Councilor Sorg.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Councilor Gondara.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, now we go to item 7.10, or 7.10, Resolution 20-121.
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Councilor Vasquez, second by Councilor Sorg. And Mr. Alex Liu will present.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. My name is Chenyu Alex Liu with Purchasing Section. Today I'm going to present you the upgrade of transit vehicle external cellular modems. Computer Aid Dispatch Automatic Vehicle Location System, or CAD/AVL system, was implemented December 2013 for dial ride and December 2014 for fixed routes. This system integrates with our trapeze scheduling system. And this system collects and provides real-time bus location data. It transforms all the data through a 3G modem, and we need to upgrade to the 4G in order to continue the service and has no interruption for the proper performance of the system. After review the sole source different determination letters and the information provided by the user department, purchasing do our due diligence research and agree with the reasoning provided that upgrade a system is more cost effective rather than total revamp and implementing a new system. You will save the city $100,000, save the city the retraining time for the staff, and avoid unacceptable delay of the services. As the Clever Devices is the patent holder for this system, we decide to procure this upgrade through sole source method through this patent holder. The total upgrade cost will be $84,214. With that, I will turn over to the user department to talk more about the detail of this upgrade. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Mike Bartholomew, Director of Roadrunner Transit, will be also discussing.
As he presented it, this is an essential part of our programs for pushing out information to the public on fixed route where the buses are. It provides detailed information on statistics of on-time performance of the buses. It has systems for letting us know if problems with the buses are en route, and we can identify at all times where the routes are. On our dial-a-ride service, is where our trapeze scheduling program is, and it integrates with that, which is trapeze is provided by a different company. And it's dispatches out to the computers on the driver's vans where their pickups are and order. And there's a system where the drivers will record when they get there, when they pick up the ride, because it's detailed data that we have to keep track of and report on. It's really a critical part of our system, and if we let the modems get outdated, we won't be able to use that system anymore. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Who had this pulled? Mayor Pro Tem, did you have?
Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew and Mr. Liu, for your presentation. My question is about the sole source provider and how long have they been in existence? I'm assuming that you have captured through your procurement process the kind of company they are, how well the software is, what kind of consultation, and will they be giving you in regards to the software?
Yes, as was noted in the presentation, we've had this company since 2013 that we worked with. We went out for a competitive bid at that time for the product. Like many companies that provide these kind of services, their products are proprietary. And so that's why to switch to a different particular company, it could cost us several $100,000 to switch to a different company versus simply upgrading the modems in this system. And this company, we work with them. They're the ones who advised us of the Verizon no longer supporting the 3G systems anymore. We work with them all the time. We have maintenance agreement with them. So every year, whenever we have problems, we go to them. So they support us.
So you're confident in their services and you're confident in their service?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Just checking, making sure. I think this is a great addition, and I can understand why the upgrade is necessary. It'll be very helpful to ensure, that where the buses are and timeliness and that kind of thing. And the public deserves to know that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Members of the public? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 20-121. Councilor Betas-Stuvey?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next item is 7.11, Council Bill number 20-025, ordinance number 2917.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Vasquez, second by Councilor Sorg, and Mr. Bilham from our land office will discuss.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Bill Ham, Economic Development Department. This ordinance for your consideration pertains to the sale of some city-owned property located outside of Hatch, New Mexico. The property specifics are the City Utilities Department acquired this property circa 2001, primarily for the acquisition of water rights. From 2001 to 14, the property to offset holding costs was leased to for crop farming. Kind of jump ahead a little bit, in 2014, the irrigation well on the property failed, and it was in need of complete replacement. Property is just shy of 130 acres, out of which 57.5 acres are irrigated, water-righted acreage farmland, and the remainder of that is non-irrigated desert land. The City Utilities Department has been incurring approximately $12,500 a year in maintenance, which is weed disking and EBID fees and such. This is a boundary shot of the property. The little rectangle that you see there in the middle is actually excluded from the property. That's approximately an acre, which has a residence situated on it, and that residence is accessed via an easement to the east, is how that legal access is obtained. General aerial shot here, you can see hatches down in your lower right-hand corner, so it's, this property is, generally northwest of Hatch. There's irrigated farmland view there. This is a picture of the failed well that's in about the center of the property. That's the residence you see in the back there is situated on the rectangular property, as I mentioned. So the proposed terms, we had appraisals came in at 404 and 385 respectively. Gives you an average of 394.5. We had an adjoining farmer came in and offered 350 for the property. We negotiated to 375 with splitting of closing costs, and that was deemed a fair offer, namely because of the the annual maintenance costs that are being incurred, and also that farmer is going to be required to install that well at his expense. That came in about $73,000. So some significant costs there. So anyway, that's the terms of the deal. So we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Bill. Questions? No questions, Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. Members of the public? Seeing none? Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 2917. Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores is absent. Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Excuse me. Okay, that takes care of our consent agenda items. Now we're going to go to 8.2, Resolution 20-123.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Sorg, second by Councilor Vasquez. And Veronica McGregor will be discussing.
Good afternoon, Veronica McGregor, Budget Analyst. The resolution before you is to accept 3 new grants and to adjust the budget. Before I get started, you'll notice that I changed the format of my presentation just a little bit. We wanted to make it easier for you to understand what we're adjusting for these grants that are being accepted. So the Economic Development Department has been awarded a LEDA grant from the New Mexico Economic Development Department. LEDA stands for Local Economic Development Act. We are adjusting both the revenues and the expenditures in the Special Revenue Operating Grant Fund for the amount of the grant, which is $200,000. This grant has a cash match requirement of $75,000, which is coming from the city's Economic Development Fund. This grant will provide for capital assets and improvements for the Big Tuna USA LLC. Next, Parks and Recreation has been awarded a grant in the amount of $350,000 for the Paseo del Norte Foundation, or from the Paseo del Norte Foundation. We are adjusting the revenues and the expenditures for this in the amount of the grant of $350,000 in the Capital Project Grants Fund. This grant also has a cash match requirement of $10,000. The match is coming from funds that were set aside in the Hold Harmless GRT Fund. So if you notice on the slide, we're moving money from Fund 1500, which is Hold Harmless, and we're moving it into the general fund in the amount of $10,000 where it will be expended by the department. The purpose of this grant is to plan, design, and construct a multi-purpose trail section to connect the Las Cruces Trail Loop with Doñana County and the town of Mesilla. And finally, Utilities has been awarded a grant from the Bureau of Reclamation to purchase a hydrant flushing truck system called NODES. The grant is $238,696, and we're adjusting the revenue and the expenditures in the Water Equipment Replacement Fund for the grant amount. There is also a cash match requirement of $239,696, which will come from the Water Acquisition Fund. As with other Bureau of Reclamation grants, they withhold $1,000 of the grant award for the required environmental certifications, and that's why the match is slightly higher than the grant award. And with that, here are your options. We'll stand for questions. I have members of staff from the departments if you have any specific questions related to the grants.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica. Questions? Members of the public? Seeing none? Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 20-123. Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Soar?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next is 8.3, Resolution 20-124.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Vasquez, second by Councilor Sorg, and A.B. Johnson Bassford will be discussing.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilors. My name is Amy Johnson Bassford. I'm the Grants Administrator, and today I'll be presenting to you a grant opportunity for our Roadrunner Transit. It is the FTA Federal Fiscal Year 2020 Bus and Bus Facilities Grant. We intend to apply to receive the remaining amount of funding needed to complete the new Maintenance and Operations Center for transit out on Motel Boulevard. The city's strategic plan, item number 14, says that by 2021, employees will experience safe working conditions, city vehicles and equipment will be maintained in a cost-effective centralized service center. This is the first step in that process. For those of you who may not be familiar with our Roadrunner Transit facility, this is the extent of the facility where we house all fixed route and paratransit buses. We are at maximum capacity at this facility, and this tiny little building right there is where we work on buses. So there isn't a whole lot of room there for those, our maintenance crew to service the buses. Back in the, wow, I guess it's almost 10 years ago, we received funding from the FTA of a little over $770,000 to design a new maintenance and operations facility. The property selected is out on Motel Boulevard. It's owned by the city. If you're not familiar with it, it is immediately south and adjacent to the utilities property. The building and operations facility has been designed specifically for the purpose of transit. And prior to receiving any funding for the construction, most of the construction and design documents were 90% complete. This is a schematic of what we envision the building to be. This is the main building here where we will have bays to service the buses, including the new electrical buses. Attached to that is the operations center, which will include parts. This is a vehicle wash station for the buses, and this is the fueling center for the buses. The electrical infrastructure charging stations will be here in the center, and the electrical transformers and things that I'll talk about in a few minutes will be back here in this corner of the property. So there have been a few changes to this schematic since the last time we applied for a grant for this property. So back in 2018, when we applied for the Bus and Bus Facilities grant that we received, we did a benefit cost analysis, which is required by the U.S. Department of Transportation. At that time, the benefit cost analysis indicated that our current facility was no longer usable. There would be no significant cost increases for operating the buses by moving it to another facility. We would recognize repayment of our investment over a 20-year period by doing the new facility. And the relocation of the transit facility allows for the development of Hadley as a future recreational area, which has been identified as a strategic goal of the city. So from that 2018 funding request, we received $11 million. Our request was for $16 million. The city committed at that time $4.5 million, which would have made the property and construction at about $20 million to complete the facility. Current estimate is $24.8 million to build the facility. Some of the increases result from the fact that we are going to have to do significantly more electrical infrastructure than expected after El Paso Electric reviewed the property and where it sits on the grid and a whole bunch of really technical things that I could go into detail but won't. But it's increased the cost of our electrical infrastructure to have the electric buses by about $2 million. Additionally, we also are making this a LEED certified building as far as we can, and that has increased the price as well. So last week we submitted a request to the FTA for the federal fiscal year 2020 low and no emission grant opportunity for the electrical charging infrastructure of just over $2.1 million. We assume that we will be able to leverage that and receive that. It leaves a need of about $6.9 million for the facility to be completed. The shovel-ready project that we are proposing will complete the final 10% of design and construction documents, develop the site, including all of the electrical infrastructure that is required, complete an operations and maintenance building with parts area, a fueling and service building, a vehicle wash building, and all of the electrical vehicle charging stations for the 5 electrical buses that we are in the process of purchasing. This is an overview of the funding, and it does get a little complicated, so I'm happy to answer questions about this. The first line shows the bus and bus facilities grant we are before you today requesting approval to apply for. We are applying for approximately $5.6 million. The match to that would be $1.39 million. Current city funding that has been already committed, we have $11 million from the FTA. From a previous grant, we have committed $4.5 million to matching that. We will leverage the federal fiscal year 2020 low and no emission grants that we just submitted. That grant is pending. We submitted that in the amount of $1.9 million with a $215,000 match. We are also going to leverage the FTA federal fiscal year 2017 low and no emission award that we've already received for the purchase of the electric buses. Approximately $100,000 of that award has been committed to the electrical infrastructure charging of the buses. And then finally, we have a leverage of the New Mexico 2020 Legislative Award, which has been committed. It was signed into law last week by the governor of $115,000 that will go to the overall project cost. As you can see, our project costs are $24.8 million. The match funding is planned for use through the Hold Harmless Gross Receipts Tax bond recycling, which is happening this spring. $6 million of that bond recycling has been committed to this facility. So that covers our 4.5 and our other match amounts. This grant is due March 30th of 2020. We are not expecting that date will change. However, we have heard that some of the federal agencies are moving up due dates based on the current crisis. So we are in the process of trying to finish the paperwork as quickly as possible. The expected award notice would not be until October. We expect to implement the program in December, and that is because we will begin using the $11 million that we already have to begin the construction of the property. And then the facility completion timeline is summer of 2022. This is another view of the facility and its schematic designs from another angle. And here are your council options, and I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Councilor Sorg Vasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that presentation. I just want to make a comment on how if we're going to have a great transportation system in our city here, one that people want to use to go where they want to go, we're going to need a good operation and maintenance facility to do that. And this has been long in the waiting. I was just telling Councilor Bencomo, that I saw this plan for this like 5, 6, 7 years ago. It was presented to, oddly enough, the Utilities Department, or Utilities Commission, I mean. And I haven't seen it since, but yeah, we have had the change of electric charging stations for our electric buses added to it. A very important piece. I could be mistaken, but I thought at one time that some electric companies, some IOUs, would cost share the charging stations with municipalities or whoever's going to use them. Was that ever explored or asked El Paso Electric if they would help pay for that? I know the infrastructure, the charging stations are very expensive, but then we have to bring the wiring to it off of the distribution lines. And yeah, that's why it's so expensive. But has El Paso Electric ever given us an indication they might cost share that somewhat?
Mayor, Councilor Sorg, we have not explored that as fully as we could with El Paso Electric. We know that El Paso Electric has evaluated the property and found that the grid that the property is on is not sufficient to handle the load that we will have in the future. Therefore, they are going to have to switch us off to another grid and probably do a fair amount of infrastructure on their side. We have determined that we will need at least 2 transformers just for the electrical charging portion, as well as the actual charging mechanisms, which we have selected a different one than we originally planned, which was more like a plug-in, like a gas station pump. Now we're looking at overhead pantographs. Those can be adjusted as we move forward. At the time that we had a group meeting, I think you were at that meeting with our consultant for the bus purchase, CTE, and El Paso Electric was there. They indicated they would be interested in talking about it, but that they were also in the middle of being purchased. Yeah. And so as that purchase is completed, I believe that city management has the opportunity to possibly go back and ask for additional support from El Paso Electric for some of the transformers and other electrical infrastructure that we need.
Thank you so much. The old adage, it never hurts to ask.
Right.
You can always say no. It brings to mind because in the wilds of Montana, I had an irrigation farm that was using tractors and diesel engines to pump water from the Missouri River for the irrigation. And if you know anything about that, and most of you don't, it's awful to try to keep a tractor and diesel engines and whatnot going, where an electric motor is so much easier, just flip a switch. And, but the power lines to service a 440 electrical pumps was like 7 or 8 miles away, and the power company says we can't afford to run power over to just your 3 or 4 pumps that you had. And so I suffered through several years of using diesel engines, and finally I had a neighbor who said, oh, we're going to get a pump too. And so between the 2 of us, they were allowed to bring it in. I didn't have to pay for those lines coming in. And that's what brought this to mind. One other thing too is that there is another thing, but it just escaped me just now. I may think of it before we're done here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. And who else? Councilor Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Johnson-Bassford. I'm excited that this project is moving forward little by little. I know it's a big ticket item for us to all pay at once. The first $11 million grant that we got, was that the Tiger grant that we successfully applied for, or what was before the Tiger grant?
Mayor, Councilor Vasquez, no, we have never successfully applied for a Tiger, or now as they're called, Build grant. We have submitted this multiple times for that program. The year that we submitted this, both for the Build and the FTA was the one who funded it, and the Build did not. It's very rare that Build funds these types of projects, but we made an effort for it anyway. So the 11, I think they came to an agreement, to be honest. They told us we'll fund, we're not going to fund it from both pots of money. So I think they probably, the US DOT came together and said, okay, this is how much we're putting in from FTA and
Okay. And so the additional $2 million that we are approving to apply for now with our additional cash match, that's a different type of FTA grant, right? The lower no emission grant?
so we have applied, Mayor, Councilor Vasquez, we're actually applying for 2 grants. One did not require council approval because the cash match was under the $250,000 threshold. So that is the $1.9 million with a $215,000 match that we applied for and submitted successfully on Friday to FTA. This is the other FTA annual grant bus and bus facilities opportunity under competitive funding that we're applying for and asking for approval today. It's the $5.5 million at the top of the screen, and $1.39 million is the match.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts on the prospects of us receiving that grant?
I understand that let me try again. I just promoted you to a senator.
That was nice.
Councilor Vasquez, I understand that Senator Udall's office is very much interested in the expansion of electric buses and providing more money under this program. So I believe that as we make the case that you didn't fund us fully the last time, we need that balance to get this done, that we have a good case for them to finish out the rest of the funding. I believe there is additional funds that have been put into it. Whether those stay in that program or not remains to be seen.
Terrific, thank you. So it seems like we have some good leverage there. When are we anticipating that the award would be announced?
Mayor and Councilor Vasquez, they announce awards of these fairly quickly. We expect by October that we will hear whether we've been awarded or not, and then we can move immediately to bring that grant into the city.
That's terrific, okay. And then in terms of a plan B, if we don't receive this grant, are we looking actively at other opportunities for this type of funding?
Mayor, Councilor Vasquez, yes, we are continuing to look for other opportunities for this. If we do not receive this funding, we would go back to city management to discuss the options of downsizing what gets done at the facility so we can begin to utilize the $11 million within the timeframes we're required to.
That was going to be my next question regarding timing on the other monies awarded already. Well, thank you so much. I've been so impressed with your department. You've been able to work magic on the grant side of things for us on so many different things over the last 2 years I've been here, and so I'm impressed and optimistic that we'll receive this. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Bencomo?
Hi, thank you so much for that. I just have 2 questions. Is the FDA funding time-bound?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, the FTA funding does have some time constraints on it. They like to have it obligated within 1 to 2 years for construction of when they make the award. So we have to have started some of the construction activities within 2 years.
Ideally, when do you think construction would start?
Ideally, according to the Public Works Department, they will be putting out to RFP the construction in the fall, and so we would be starting in late winter or beginning of the new calendar year.
Great, that's exciting. My last question was about the loan from the Telshore Fund. Is that right, to match? How does that work? How is this loan then paid back?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, originally when we proposed this project, the idea was that we would borrow from the Telshore Fund and have the Transit Department repay that as we would do any kind of repayment, such as from the New Mexico Finance Authority. Since then, the decision has been made by city management that we will match this project through the Hold Harmless Gross Receipts Tax Bond Fund. So unless there is a large gap between what we receive in funding and what we have from the Hold Harmless, we may not have to loan from the Telshore Fund.
Oh, okay.
And that was a fairly recent development, so that's why the council packet kind of refers to the loan from the Telshore Fund, but the actual presentation is from the Hold Harmless.
Yes, I noticed that. I thought it was interesting, but I had made myself a little note when I was prepping.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And I hope that there are that many trees in real life.
So too.
Thank you.
Councilor Abate-Stuvey.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Amy. I'm very excited to see this project and hopefully so that we can expand our services and really build up our transit system. I had a very quick question about going back to El Paso Electric, if you'd be able to share that number that was needed for those additional improvements.
So what we do not know, Mayor, Councilor Abate-Stuvey, we do not know how much the infrastructure cost will be on the side of El Paso Electric. They were evaluating that, and I believe that meetings were scheduled sometime in this spring for us to meet with the representatives from El Paso Electric on the cost for that. We know that the electrical buses will require at least 2 transformers to charge them, and so we've gone ahead and priced out what those costs would be, and that is the amount right here in this grant that we just submitted, because that particular grant will pay for the infrastructure for electrical charging. So we submitted the entire amount that we will need for the 2 transformers, for a generator, for the switches, for the overhead pantograph charging stations, and for the actual electric dispenser that connects to the bus.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sword.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just remembered. This infrastructure for the electric charging, are we thinking ahead and planning on having enough charging stations to charge our whole fleet? In other words, have the capacity and the electricity that comes to us?
Mayor, Councilor Sorg, yes, that is why it is a fairly high cost. If we were only doing the 5 buses we were getting, we would probably not need the 2 transformers and the generator and et cetera, et cetera. We are planning to have the electrical infrastructure built in while we're building the facility, which is much more cost effective for us to have a full fixed route fleet of 20 electric buses in that pantograph system, although we may have to phase in the actual connections.
Of course.
As we get additional buses. But initially, we will have enough chargers for 6 buses.
Right, good. Thank you very much. I like the forward thinking. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 20-124. Councilor Abate-Stuvey?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next item is item 8.4, Resolution 20-125.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Vasquez, second by Councilor Abate-Stuvey, and Ms. Kathy Matthews will be discussing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Kathy Matthews. I'm the landscape architect with the Parks and Recreation Department, and I wanted to talk with you this afternoon regarding a revision to the Klein Park Conceptual Master Plan. So, on July 2nd, 2015, Council approved the Conceptual Master Plan for Klein Park. This was the culmination of a planning process during the previous year, supported by Parks and Recreation Department and a consultant, Site Southwest. Public input from stakeholders, residents, children participating in the Safe Haven program, and the general public resulted in this master plan. Key features of the master plan include a sculpture garden, illustrated here in the upper right-hand corner of the picture. Seating steps at the Mesquite Avenue side, illustrated here in the center on the right-hand side, which those steps will bridge the elevation difference between the street and the park. New shade structures over the playground equipment here in the lower southeast corner of the map, and a new entry at the corner of Griggs Avenue and San Pedro Street here in the southwest corner of the park. Also expanded turf area for open play and a renovated amphitheater in the northwest corner of the park. In the conceptual master plan, the basketball court, which is currently located, as I'm showing here with the mouse, on the near to the amphitheater, in this current conceptual master plan, the basketball court is relocated over to the Mesquite Street side, Mesquite Avenue side, to serve as a performance space as well as a basketball court. So the revision we're proposing is to keep those features in place with the exception of the basketball court. We have a proposal from a city resident to renovate the existing basketball court in support of a basketball event for the city residents in August of this year. The renovation of that court would be at no cost to the city. The cost would be incurred by the resident who's proposing to hold this event. We conducted a public meeting on January 28th to discuss the proposal with stakeholders and neighbors of the park. Attendees at the meeting included representatives from Las Esperanzas, the Arts and Culture District Board, area developers, and a business owner who owns a business adjacent to the park as well. We also presented this question to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for discussion, and they were generally in favor of the idea of keeping the basketball court here in support of that event. So the general consensus among all the stakeholders is to keep the basketball court in its current location, to request a modification of the master plan, and to accept the proposal to basically to allow for the renovation of the basketball court in place. I wanted to mention also that the current GO bond, general obligation bond program, it does include some mention of renovating the existing basketball court at Klein Park. If this proposal is accepted, that renovation can occur from different funding sources and could free up some of that general obligation funding for other renovations of other sports courts in the city. And with that, I'll be happy to take questions, and those are your options.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Flores de Como.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for your presentation. Much appreciated, and all the work that you and Sonia and Parks team does. I was really excited when I heard that an individual was wanting to come and renovate the basketball court to provide sort of a community event that we've been trying for a considerable amount of time to bring more events to the Klein Park. And so appreciated that the city put together this meeting to really discuss with the stakeholders, because as master plans, you know, things change, right? And so my question to you is, how old is the current master plan?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Gondara, the plan was approved in July of 2015, so it's almost 5 years old.
Okay. So like I said, I think plans change, and I think at one point the general consensus was to move that. But as we heard loud and clear, and I did participate in the meeting, is people still want their green space. They want for kids to be able to have as much space as they can. And to move this generally would mean basically taking away from the space. People enjoy when they come to the amphitheater to hear music and such. They enjoy using, you know, that blacktop, if you will, as to sit and dance, if you will. And so I think I'm definitely for the keeping it as is, and just so that I'm and the rest of the council are informed, is this one of the reasons that they're coming to this is generally for the area anyway, but the court is not a official size, correct, currently?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Gondra, my understanding is the court is probably about a 3/4 size basketball court. And so with this renovation, there is the potential to bring it up to a full court size, given the existing footprint of the concrete there.
Okay, all right. So I think for me, if it's going to be brought to official size, I think that would be incredible for our youth there that use it, and you know, for our community. And I'm for this. I think this is something that generally we should see happen, especially when someone wants to come out of their goodness of their hearts to come and you know, make the accommodations or and you know, really, and pay for it. The other thing is I'd like to recommend that we update our master plan. I think that was one of the things that our stakeholders had all agreed, as well as an update to that plan is also important as we move forward. So that's it, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Flores?
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Matthews. As far as the original plan, it was to be, this basketball court was to be on the east side of the park. And why would it remain where it is now? I mean, what are the pluses of keeping it where it is now?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, and according to the original master plan, the original conceptual master plan, the basketball court was to be relocated away from the amphitheater over to the Mesquite Street side. The idea with that was to create a different kind of event space where there could be some amphitheater type seating on those steps down from the Mesquite Street location, and in a sense expanding the grass turf area where the basketball court is currently located. So as I'm illustrating here, this grass area is where the current basketball court is, and so the grass would be expanded here to create sort of more open space. With what we're proposing now is that the basketball court would remain in place at the amphitheater to retain sort of that event space in conjunction with the amphitheater, so that there are opportunities for attendees at a concert, for instance, to sit and bring their chairs to the basketball court. Also opportunities for dancing. It's easier to dance on a hard surface than in the grass and the like. And the idea would then also potentially then to expand the grass area, the turf area, into this space that was originally proposed for relocating the basketball court. So we could get both benefits with this plan, namely additional grass space, and also keep the basketball court where it is and take advantage of this proposal.
And what were the groups that met over a course of how much time, and how many open meetings or community meetings were held?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, we held the one open meeting. The attendees we advertised as we typically do when we send out the invite to our email list of known interested persons in Klein Park. So the groups who attended were Las Esperanzas, the Arts and Culture District, also the president of the Alameda Depot Historic District, but he is also a developer in the Mesquite Historic District, so a developer attended as well, and a business owner who owns a business in the vicinity and also lives in that area. So those were among the attendees at that meeting. We did have the one meeting, and we did discuss it in the public meeting, namely the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting.
And did they all agree to leave the basketball court where it is and to upgrade it? Did they all agree to that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, it was not an action item on the agenda for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, but the general consensus among those who were in attendance was that this would be, my feeling of the consensus was that there was consensus to approve this. We did not take it as an action item at that meeting.
So we really don't know if everyone who is so watchful of, and very protective of their community, we don't know if all the stakeholders were, maybe they were represented, but we don't really know whether they approved. So would we possibly err on the side of offending them?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, I have no desire whatsoever to offend anybody by proposing these changes. It was definitely our understanding that the groups who attended, the representatives of the groups who attended their public meeting gave us pretty strong assurances that they had consulted with their members and that the consensus of their members was in support of this change, this modification, the revision to this master plan as well. So I feel confident that we do have support of the neighborhood. We almost never have 100% support for anything we propose, but I do feel that there is quite a bit of support for this proposal.
Thank you. And then, so my understanding of the renovation of the amphitheater is that it will be, hopefully it'll have a sound, or, whatever it's called, to have the sound carry music out beautifully, or it doesn't, because I think right now it just sort of bounces off of the walls. And are there a lot of events at that amphitheater now? Do you know?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, I don't have the number of events that occur at my fingertips to let you know, but there are a number of community events that are conducted at the park. I would estimate 3 to 4 a year, including Winterfest sometimes. There's some, Las Esperanzas, for instance, does events there as well. And among the renovations that have been conducted at the park has been included upgrade of the electrical system at the amphitheater. So there's additional power for bands and the like. And part of the master plan that we're not requesting to change here is that the amphitheater would be upgraded as well, and that could include lighting, additional sound, perhaps a change in the ceiling roof material to allow for better sound projections. So the amphitheater could serve even as a better venue for musical events.
True. So in light of that, and that's what I'm trying to understand, whether there's going to be a big balance of that space use, because people do sit in front of the amphitheater with the current basketball court there. So I just hope that there isn't some kind of a turf war between the two interests. I mean, I think it's great. I think that we need a basketball court, and I think it's wonderful that there's someone in the community. It sounds like he's Santa Claus or something, wants to keep quiet, who wants to make this contribution. And even though I don't know him or her, I would like to thank that person. I think it's very generous. Who's going to take care of the upkeep and the maintenance of the park? Just the Parks and Rec, as we usually do in our public works?
Correct.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bencomo?
Thank you, Kathy. I think that I spoke with a member of the Las Esperanzas who also told me that they agreed that it should stay and that it's really exciting that there's a member of the community who wants to invest in this park and make this better. I also had a question about the official size, not because I know anything about that, but because it's things that I hear. And I think, so I'm assuming though that if, that maybe the rush or urgency to keep the court as it is now is if this person's wanting to invest in even events, right, at the park, that the court is really not usable right now, right? It's pretty destroyed. And so I imagine that they're wanting to change this now so that that they can hold an event there that's successful and exciting and perhaps continue repeating it. So I think it's really cool. I think it's a really good idea. My only question is, I mean, while I think it's really great that someone's investing in it, as a city, do we have what are the assurances we have that this person is going to be able to pay for the entire project? And what happens if they don't?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, we have been in discussion with this person. I apologize, I can't for the life of me remember his name at the moment. But he has given us his insurance. He's gone through an extensive process to this point in time. He had hoped to be able to do this earlier, and so he started his process early, consulting neighbors and surveying the neighbors in general about their opinions with regard to this event, talking with the police and fire departments regarding permits required to potentially close streets or provide for parking on those streets in the vicinity of the park. And he's consulted as well with the Parks and Recreation Department to get conversations started regarding any kind of permitting process. And so I have to say a number of hours of his own personal time, hours, weeks, days, have been invested in this already to this point, and it seems that the plan with regard to the event is serious, is not a whim, and given the amount of effort and the like that he has put into it already. So we're taking it seriously and wanted to make sure that we move forward the process in as timely a manner as we can to be able to meet his goal of conducting the event in August of 2020.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. How exciting.
Thank you. We have Councilor Vasquez and then Abeta Stubbe.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Kathy. Well, I've won a lot of pickup games on this basketball court. Most of the games I've played there, I've won, so the court has a special place for me.
It doesn't count when you play against sixth graders.
Hey, all competition counts. I just have one request to move the free throw line a little bit closer. I just wanted to comment on the conflict of use piece that Councilor Flores brought up. I did play on the court for a couple years in a little pickup league. So it's one of my favorite parks in the city, even though it's not my district. But we didn't have when we played on, I think it was Thursday nights, we didn't have any conflicts with other park users. I know during the weekend sometimes there's events that use the stage, but I found most people in the neighborhood to always be very nice and welcoming to different park visitors. I do also want to say I think the location of the court there serves the businesses on Mesquite Street well, because with the passion of the game, people yell, there's basketballs bouncing around, sometimes into the street, like on Oregon and San Pedro. So I think you want to keep the basketballs away from Mesquite, which has probably more traffic, more businesses and that kind of thing. So I think for that reason, the court is good there. And yeah, some seating in the auditorium or in the amphitheater so they could watch our basketball games would be great too. Exciting. But thank you, Kathy, appreciate it, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and Councilor Abeta Stubbe.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Matthews. I actually want to echo a lot of the sentiments that Councilor Vasquez just said. Logically, this revision, I think, makes a lot of sense by being able to have the seating right there so that people can watch the games. If you did have a musical concert over there, it is more, I would say, user-friendly, and then you don't have people, should they be dressed up, they're not poking holes in the grass with their high heels, things like that. So it makes a lot of sense. And then the safety component on Mesquite Street. So thank you very much. I actually think this is a wonderful idea, and thank you to the generous donor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add, we will be working on an agreement with the donor and the gentleman who wants to put on the event. In order to start negotiations with regard to that agreement, we do need to move forward with this revision as well to make sure that we've got it all that nailed down to include in the agreement.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay. Any other comments, members of the public? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 20-125. Councilor Abeta Stubbe?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, item number 8.5, Resolution 20-126.
Move to approve.
Mayor? Oh, you.
Yeah, hold on. Motion made by Councilor Sorg, second by Councilor Vasquez. And I know Dr. Garcia is going to discuss.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilors, this presentation is the same presentation I gave you in the work session a few weeks back. Basically deals with the adjustment of solid waste fees for the solid waste utility. Just as a recap on the rate-making process, we have a consultant that worked on our water, wastewater rates. Their contract was amended by the utility board to work on the solid waste rates. The board received a preliminary report. The ad hoc board, which is the UCAG, Customer Advisory Group, appointed by the City Council, did extensive public outreach at various venues and recommended and concurred with the final report. They made a recommendation to the utility board. The utility board endorsed that recommendation and forwarded to the City Council. Since then, I came to you on a work session with this presentation. Basically, about 5.5 years ago, we did the last rate adjustment in the solid waste utility. The deficit today in the funds needed to operate that utility as an enterprise fund is about $1.34 million. Just to give you an idea of the differences in costs, approximately $650,000 or so is the difference in personnel costs, and the difference in disposal costs is about $800,000. Granted that we've had since then growth in customers, and that's what covers the deficit. But again, the differential is about $1.34 million. This is just a chart that shows the increased cost overall. Not only personnel, equipment costs have gone up, as well as the operating costs, one of them being South Central Solid Waste Authority. In terms of vehicles, back in 2015, we have a deficit of 10 vehicles. We had to issue a loan and replace those going back. We had fallen behind in the replacement of vehicles. In order to continue to operate the utility without a deficit on the vehicles, we need approximately $1.18 million a year, which is this amount up here, to be able to stabilize the fleet and be able to replace it. So that is included in this $1.3 million as well. The current fee for the standard service is $13.25. A second container is $9, and the reduced size container is $11.25 for residential customers. As you know, about 32,000 out of 35,000 customers are residential, so they are the most impacted. The proposed rates are $2 differential for the large container and the smaller container. A customer that may be willing to reduce their garbage footprint can always order the smaller container and not change their cost. Back in 2015, we thought that the smaller container was going to be very successful and would mitigate the increase in rates that at the time were more than $3.25. Since then, we've only issued about 10%. In other words, 3,000 or 3,200 containers are small containers. So there's a lot of customers that can adopt the smaller container and try to recycle more, recycle right, and reduce the garbage footprint. There was an option that is not recommended here, and that was do it in 2 years. You did that in the water, wastewater because the increases were larger. would be $1 this year, $1 the next year. The disadvantage of doing that is that we would have to forego the replacement of vehicles because the other costs are not going to wait, meaning salaries, South Central Solid Waste Authority. Some of those of you who serve on South Central know that we have a situation with the landfill where we're going to have to adjust rates to treat for gas. That is not included in here. It's in what the costs that are included in here are going from $33 to $42 over a 5-year period. But so there will be other surprises and other costs that will affect the solid waste utility moving forward. So there was no recommendation to phase them, given that it is a $2 change. The residential bill, again, from $13.25 to $15.25, and the smaller container from $11.25 to $13.25. In terms of a rate survey with other utilities, we're still very competitive. Alamogordo is a little lower. Lubbock, Texas, that has their own utility. Again, we're comparing it against solid waste utilities that are municipally owned. And Deming is $19.54. So in this area, we are still fairly competitive on the residential side. There's going to be changes in the other commercial side. They're all proportional to their cost. It's cost of service. It's not the same percentage. It's not the same dollar amount. It ranges from $1 to probably $15 for some commercial customers. Of course, commercial customers have the advantage of doing more recycling through South Central Solid Waste Authority, and they have the option of doing one or more times per week. Some of them only may reduce from 2 times a week to 1 time a week, depending on how much recycling they do. What this will do, again, if you go back to the water wastewater rates when we had the council meeting and the work sessions, the public criticized us for having waited too long. We waited almost 10 years in the water wastewater utilities. Ideally, in our strategic plan, we said we're going to do it once every 4 years, 1 utility every 4 years. We have 4 utilities. This one is at 5 years, hence the change is smaller. But in general, this will improve our position and keep our fleet healthy. A lot of the money, again, goes into the reinvestment of this solid waste collection infrastructure. We think we have a very resilient and reliable system. You don't hear very often that the truck does not come that day. The biggest complaint we have is that the trucks are late. Maybe one day they will be a little late because of some kind of a problem that we may have had, but we always collect it in the same day. We have not missed a collection in many, many years. So that ties to the level of service to our customers. And again, our peak performance goals is to maintain the health of the enterprise funds, but also have more periodic adjustments to mitigate the impact to the public. This morning, Mayor Pro Tem sent an email asking whether, what would be the impact of tabling this or this change. I want to clarify with the council that should you approve this, the change is not effective for 2 months because we have to go back to the utility board. We have a couple of members here, and we develop the rate schedules. That would be next month. Then we have to program the billing system and then implement in May. If the council is concerned, and we are going through a crisis right now, you can always condition the implementation later on, and that would give us time to do the public outreach, the programming of the system, go to the utility board. So again, Councilor Gandar, if there was that concern, you do have options, and we can have a minor amendment to really put the timeline in a way that we can prepare and yet not implement the actual execution till later on. We were planning on May, but if you feel comfortable going to June or the end of June or early July, what is critical is the fiscal year because we're not putting these revenues or expenses from these rates into next fiscal year, but we will do it as soon as everybody approves. Then the first chance we have in next fiscal year, we adjust revenues and expenses. With that, I'll entertain questions from the City Council.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Before I get to the council, so what is it per month that it would bring in, approximately?
It's about a little more than 1.3 million for it's about $100,000 a year, $100,000 a month. Excuse me.
Okay. 100,000.
Yeah.
If hypothetically, we, because we don't know, we hope that this situation wraps up. We'll know probably within 2 or 3 weeks how things are going. So in the event the council wanted to push it back a little bit further, and we missed the fiscal year, and you missed it by a month, theoretically, City Council, through our general fund, can make good on that 1 month if we needed to, if we pushed it even, if it was 3 months. I think it's just, but I just want to make sure. I mean, there's, obviously, you wouldn't mind taking money from the city to make it whole. If that was, I'm just looking at worst case scenario, that's all. So I just want to turn to Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilor Gondara and then Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Garcia, for your presentation and for your quick response this morning as I was thinking how I was going to present this. I think we all would agree how important it is that we have not only the infrastructure, but the fleet to be able to pick up our solid waste and it be done appropriately and effectively, with quality. I know of situations where people, other municipalities have moved into, a different direction, and there's a lot of concern about solid waste and whatnot. And so for me, I think in lieu of what Mayor had indicated with the pandemic, I feel really strongly that we should wait to see this and wait in terms of looking at it month to month to see what this is going to look like, because I'm already concerned, as you know, with people who are unable to, during this time, where they're losing their job or losing hours, if you will, and to include our commercial, our businesses, that they wouldn't be able to, pay for something like this and what this would mean to them. I know that we're still within some, lower than most municipalities, but I also want you and the public to know that I feel this is so important that we have what we need to continue to the level of service that we are providing to our community. So if we can wait, until July or August, I think that would be helpful. And in terms of just trying to reevaluate where we're at that point would be helpful to me. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Garcia.
Before we get to get Councilor Bencomo, so Dr. Garcia, what if this was tabled for an additional month and then bring it back and see where we're at that time? Is that something that can still work it in?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, yes, we can work that.
Just
And if I may respond to your prior question, having managed the utility for more than 10 years and been with the city about 30 years, I've never seen the utility receive funds from the general fund. It's sort of we're very proud that we manage enterprise funds. One thing the city council can do, and that we'll discuss this, I believe, in the following work session. You all have allocated $100,000 to assist customers. One thing, as we get into this crisis, and if the crisis gets worse, and to help businesses, or there's another way that the city council can help is through the utility assistance program. And if you have if you had the $100,000, I'd rather see that go into the utility assistance program, because that program, which we manage through Casa de Peregrinos, helps a lot of mainly residential customers in need, where they are affected by this crisis or they lose a job or things like that. So if you want to help, I think that's where we need to put the funds from the general fund, rather than direct transfers to the utility.
Okay, but even if the council was to do it, even if they were to postpone this for a month or table it for a month, you're still, and then kind of see where we're at here. Yes. I mean, because we're almost right in the center of everything, right? Today, I mean, literally is the center of everything. And I think a month from now, we'll have a little bit more
Yeah.
handle on things.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, yes, we can wait a month and see how the situation is and then bring it back based on the directive from management.
Okay. Councilor Bencomo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Garcia. Unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, I think that we're not in the center, at least not here in New Mexico. I think we're at the very beginning of this. And so, Dr. Garcia, you know that I support this. I think, to me, it makes sense. I understand why it has to happen. I know that rate increases are never, exciting for the general public, but this, we're a growing city, and I think this sort of comes with that, and this department is really responsive, and there's 1,600 pickups every single day. Is that right? So you imagine why it's a necessary increase. So I'm generally in support of it, but I did wake up this morning feeling incredibly unsettled. And how would I feel right now in the beginning of a growing crisis in our city, increasing the rate for people in crisis, potentially going to be experiencing even more crisis coming April 1st when they're going to pay rent, or at the end of May, right? I would also recommend that we table this for one more month. I know that also creates perhaps some unsettling feelings for the utility department, but I would like to revisit this conversation. I do feel really unsettled as we think about increasing rates right now, even though I understand why it's important. So, and I know that you're also going to be presenting at today's work session, right, Dr. Garcia? Or
I believe we'll have a single presenter, but I'll be answering questions.
Yes, on behalf of the Utilities Department. So I always appreciate you and the information that you provide to us. I'm glad that you brought up the utility assistance, because I think we should look at that anyway. I think it is really important that we increase that. Perhaps in the future you could send us information. I'm on the Utilities Board, and I wish I had the information right at hand, but that fund is being significantly used this year, right? And so in the way that it's being used, it looks like it's going to be tapped to the end. And so I think it's important that we as a council look at that utility assistance anyway, regardless of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Vasquez?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Garcia. And just want to chime in to agree with Councilors Gandara and Bencomo. I think it might be just a little bit irresponsible for us to approve a rate increase, even though I also, as a former member of the Utilities Board, understand how much it's needed and how important it is for the solvency of the enterprise fund and the maintenance of our vehicles. I think the reality is everybody's going to be hit one way or another through this probably economic downturn, right? Businesses, households, utilities, very unfortunately. So I also support the tabling of this for another month. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Sork?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I understand, and I'm okay with delaying this another month. That's fine with me. I can see how it'll be hard for our citizens and our residents and our businesses. But I just wanted to point out that the New Mexico Economic Development Department has asked for assistance in identifying businesses in Doña Ana County that have been adversely affected by this COVID-19, so that the U.S. Small Business Administration can provide vital economic support to small businesses. And so people need to know that. I got a couple answers back to an email I put out this morning that they were very interested in this. These are loans up to $2 million in assistance that can provide this support for small businesses. And so they're taking applications right now, preliminary ones that businesses are anticipating some losses due to this pandemic. So I just wanted to put that out so you all know that.
Can you say that and repeat it at our work session?
Yes, I will.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, if any other comments before we get, I think Mayor Pro Tem wanted to put a motion on the table.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd motioned to table this for 1 month. And that would mean the end of May, whatever that, what is the dates for May?
We're gonna get that for you, so it'd be.
Oh, did
dates-
you? Sorry.
Dates, no, we're gonna get that for a
Okay.
date specific.
Okay.
I'll second.
Well, it hasn't, we gotta get the date here real quick. If someone has a calendar.
It
3rd,
would be mid-April.
or not May, April.
You're thinking of your birthday.
Yeah, forget my birthday. April 20th? May 15th. April 20th, Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, April 20th.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gondeta that we table this to our April 20th City Council meeting, second by Councilor Flores. Christine?
This is on the motion to table Resolution 20-126 to April 20th. Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next item, 8.6, Council Bill number 20-024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Vasquez, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gondeta. And looks like Mr. Cruz will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm here to go through the second reading of the natural relief.
Excuse me, can you state your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. Cruz Ramos, I'm with the Business Development Section of the Economic Development Department here at the city. And I'm here to go through the second reading of the Natural Relief LLC Local Economic Development Act project. You're all familiar with lead objectives, but I'll rapidly go through them, a few of them anyway. They're principally about stimulating economic growth. They've got a significant community impact and support. Let me advance this. Thank you, Councilor.
That's usually his job. I was waiting for him to say that. I was going to jump in there, but.
I'm sorry, if you press F5, I can work the other keys. Is that it? Enter? Yes, thank you. Stimulating economic growth, significant community impact. It's about job creation. LEADER projects are about that. And they promote significant new private capital investment. Use of LEADER funds include purchasing, leasing, development of infrastructure in general, public works improvements, LEADER project businesses are provided funds on a reimbursement basis. And they require a form of security like a letter of credit, something along those lines. Natural Leaf is a grower, processor, and seller of CBD flower and extracts. They're a manufacturing center and dispensary is here in town, but they do have a 42-acre hemp farm in Barino. And from what I understand, that's the principal location of all of their business, or most of, if not all of their business activities. Before I continue, I would like to mention that Ms. Nicole Fox, the public relations manager for the firm, is here.
Hi.
If you'd like to, if it's okay with the city, Mr. Mayor, and the City Council, for her to make some comments.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. My name is Nicole Fox. I'm the Public Relations Manager of Natural Leaf Hemp Farm and Manufacturing Center. I also am the author of the LEADER project. So we do have the 42-acre farm in Barrino, as he mentioned. We also recently acquired 15 acres here in Doñana County behind the county building. We have the manufacturing center on Highway 70, a dispensary on Solano, that's a sister business, not under this project, and another dispensary in Chicago, Illinois. He mentioned that he felt our main location is Barrino. I was kind of surprised to hear that because I feel like the manufacturing center at 3497 off of Highway 70, our very visible location, is our main location. That is a dispensary and a manufacturing center. We're not currently operating it, but we're preparing to operate a canning line out of our manufacturing center. And when we complete our expansion, we will have extraction equipment and be doing extraction there. So I'm not sure what kind of questions the council has for me, but I stand for any questions. We have a lot of, I do want to say one thing. We have a lot of moving parts in this business, and I'm sure you've heard from other hemp businesses. And I just wanted to mention that I feel that we are very unique in the hemp business for a couple of reasons. One, we are seed to shelf. Everything we do in-house. We grow all the hemp. We process our hemp. We clean our hemp. We package our hemp. We label our hemp. We have a white labeling machine. So you could conceivably believe that I personally touched your plant from the time it was a seed to the time it became a bath bomb or something. Also, we're unique because we are positioned in the scientific and research community already at this time. Our hemp farm is lucky enough to have me as a grant writer. I think we're the only hemp farm in the state who has a grant writer. So we have received grants from the Soil and Water Conservation District to do a cover crop. We have 2 grants from New Mexico Department of Agriculture for interns. We have a chemical engineering intern and a horticulture intern from New Mexico State University. We also have applied for other grants, which we are extremely confident we will receive for hoop houses and a mulching project. We also have discussed research plans with NMSU, UTEP, Burrell College of Medicine, and UNM. So,
UTEP and UNM are bad words. No, I'm just kidding.
We feel like we're not just part of the Las Cruces community, but also the border community.
I'm just joking, except when it's basketball and football season. Councilor Flores.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's okay. I was born in El Paso, so it's okay. So are you, huh, Gabe? Well, 2 El Pasoans here, by birth only. New Mexicans in our heart. Okay, thanks. So the only thing you manufacture is cannabidiol. I don't even know how to pronounce it. CANNIBIDIOL. Is that all you extract and you sell? High quality CBD flower and extracts. Is that the extent of your manufacturing? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, can you talk right into the mic?
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
So we are currently processing and manufacturing hemp flower. And are you asking if we also process and manufacture like other kinds of cannabis like marijuana or THC or something?
No. On the contrary, no. I'm not interested in the production of anything like that.
We don't do that.
No, I'm more interested in the byproduct of the plant itself. Mm-hmm. If you'd be manufacturing clothing or textiles, if you'd be, for example, we're facing a problem worldwide, well, besides the one that COVID-19, but our climate change issue insofar as reducing and having biodegradable whatever. And I know that there are, and we're going to be facing this in a work session, I think, in a week or so. And a lot of business, a lot of promoters of a lot of promoters of the environment, whatever,
Right.
want to do away with plastic bags, as do I. But it would create a hardship on restaurants and that sort of thing. So hemp is a good, one of the byproducts would be to make bags that just disintegrate. And I'd love to see, you know, the companies who are already dealing with, working with hemp, growing hemp, doing that. But is that in the cards at all? Is that anywhere down the pipeline as to that kind of manufacture for this company? I realize that your grant writing was probably just specific to what you're doing now, but are you in a position to address that or not?
I'll begin to address it the best I can, and then David may add to it if he needs to. So at this time, the strains of hemp that we grow are primarily strains that are used in wellness products. So high quality CBD that people find useful for things like anxiety, sleep, joint discomfort, stuff like that. The kind of hemp that you're talking about is a specific kind of hemp that's a specific strain that we would like seek out a specific seed to grow a plant that is to be used for fiber. I've also heard things like that it can be made into a small plastic-like pellet. However, you need like a special factory to do that. And I know that there has been instances in the state of New Mexico where they've scouted out places to manufacture hemp in that way. So we're not excluding that as part of our future, that we would grow that type of hemp that would be used in a plastic or a fiber. And there is a demand for those kinds of things. We know that. And that the value of that there is some value in growing that hemp to be used for products that are better for our earth. And I wanted to mention that we try to be good stewards of the earth in our business in all possible ways, including watching our water use. Cannabis alone is a plant that can take harmful things out of our soil. We also try to use strategies growing outdoors that reduce evaporation, reduce soil erosion, add nutrients to the earth. So we do try to be good stewards of the earth as much as we can. We try not to use any plastic in our packaging. We use glass usually, and then we also have a can that we can bud in. So that's always on the top of our mind, being good stewards of the earth and conservation. But at this time, we don't grow that type of hemp. But we do have a master degree farmer on our staff, and she keeps up to date on stuff like that and is knowledgeable, and we would have the knowledge to grow that type of hemp.
Thank you. And then my other question is there an FDA regulation as to the quantity of this, the product that your company is producing, manufacturing? Are there any FDA guidelines out there insofar as what the effective levels are to reduce anxiety and other whatever?
The restrictions that exist on growing the plant are mostly in regards to its THC content, and we have it tested, but all of our products are tested in labs, either here in here in Las Cruces, or we use another lab in Santa Fe. And so, in regards to like the CBD content, do they say you can only go to 2,000 milligrams per product? Is that what you're asking me?
What I'm asking is whether there's an FDA guideline or preferably an FDA guideline that would be truthful in saying that a certain amount would be the amount that would be good for reducing the anxiety and the sorts of stuff that the CBD is used for.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you.
David Benz. I'm one of the main principal owners of Natural Relief. Would like to try to answer some of your questions. You're saying FDA, and there's only one hemp company that I know has went through the FDA testing at this time, as far as that they can clinically say that this product does this. So what the FDA is telling us is we cannot say that this product will cure anxiety. We cannot say clinically that it will do any of that. It is not clinically proven. That is still in the works. That takes years to do. With the products, it's basically an herbal supplement at this point, kind of like exercising or any other type of stimulus products that you can buy. So FDA would be a multiple of testing for 5 years plus. Only one company has one drug, and it's for epilepsy with the kids to try to cure some epilepsy seizures. So only one company in the whole world has done it. So it's just a matter of time before that testing with FDA goes through with that. Now, as far as state legalization, your THC is the legalization that we have to stay under to be legal, and that's the 0.03%. And that's protected with the state, and with legalization, they have tests that they make us do when we harvest, and then also to be tested as a final product.
So then are you able to export it interstate? Can you?
Yes, we can. To the states that have it, that it's legal in, we can export to any of those states. If we're at non-detectable THC, it can go in any state for resale. And we're currently working on regional sales, international sales, and local sales.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, the two of you. Thank you.
Councilor Beta Stubbe?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Fox. I had a quick question on the 42-acre farm. How many acres were you able to harvest last year?
Okay. The 42-acre farm in Barreno is a lease with a partnership LLP down there. It is the old chicken coop location.
Okay.
We had some small complications. We're reducing at that location for this year. We are contracting with two other farmers locally. They're not in the city. I wish they were. It would change the lead of funds a little bit on that part, but it is in the county of Doña Ana County.
Okay.
And so we're hoping to probably get close to 40 acres in again this year.
And how many acres of hemp do you think you guys use in a year?
We will use all 40 acres. In fact, this year we were buying product from other states to come in to do some of the canning product with orders that we had that were going out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify one thing, which is not all of our hemp is grown outdoors. Some of those chicken barns that David spoke of have been repurposed into greenhouses, so we grow indoor also. And our expansion plan includes expanding that area where those greenhouses are, because the quality of hemp we get from indoor grows is superior to the stuff we get from outdoor grows.
Thank you.
Councilor Sword.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick question. Where did you say you had your product tested for THC and CBD?
We use two labs. One is called Resolex, and it's here in Las Cruces. And then we use a second lab called Scepter, and that is in Santa Fe.
So you would test the same product twice then?
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It just depends.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Anyone else? Members of the public? Seeing none. Christine? Oh, Eric, yes. Just state your name, Eric, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. My name is Eric Montgomery. I'm the Vice President for Business Development for the Mesilla Valley Economic Development Alliance. And just want to extend well wishes to Council from Davin, who wishes he could be here with you to extend this message. He is meeting with a client as we speak. And so on behalf of Davin and the board at Mavita, we very much stand in support of this LEDA project. Just so it's clear and it's on record, the state has invested $600,000 into this project throughout Doña Ana County. What's unique about this project, perhaps from other LEDA projects that we have seen throughout Doña Ana County, is that this is one that crosses both within city limits and outside city limits, and yet it is the state that has invested the funds in total. Through this agreement and this ordinance, the city is simply acting as a fund manager, and so we certainly appreciate that support should this pass. The other thing that should be mentioned, Councilor Flores, in respect to some of the questions, we do and are currently seeking and having discussions with companies that are looking at other verticals within the hemp industry, dealing with plastics and hempcrete, so hemp concrete, as well as other textiles. So we do see that, but as Nicole had mentioned, it is a completely different type of plant that we're dealing with. Typically, those plants are much taller than what we see in the CBD industry. What I want to also mention for the record is that LEDA funds, while they are public investments, do have requirements where every single public dollar that is invested must be matched with a security provision of private dollars. So should the company not meet the obligations outlined in this contract, then those monies are clawed back as added security to this. It should also be mentioned for the public interest that of all of the jobs created, whether we look at all of the jobs in total throughout Doña Ana County or just the jobs that will be created within Las Cruces, the average wages will sit majority above $15 an hour. In fact, 73% of the jobs that will be created will receive $17 an hour or higher positions. So great opportunities for Las Cruces. And just with all that's going on in the country right now, really great to have a company like this willing to make an investment and move forward on land building and infrastructure. Thank you very much, City Council.
Thanks, Eric. Councilor Vasquez, Councilor Flores.
Yes, one more question. You did say that that the 42-acre hemp farm in Barreno, I take that back. No, thank you. I'm clear. No, I just wanted to make sure that you have the manufacturing plant here in Las Cruces on Batan, and I just thank you very much.
And we extend an invitation for all of you to come tour our manufacturing center on Highway 70. It's extremely impressive and everyone loves to come there. We have toured the workforce development office staff and lots of other people, manufacturing people from Santa Fe. So please feel free to call me and come visit us. I would love to tour you guys.
Thank you, and thank you for your work. Thank you.
I thought it was pronounced Berino, not Barrino.
It's Berino.
Okay, exactly.
Berino, it's Italian.
Okay, good.
No.
Once you guys got past my last name, you could pronounce anything any way you want. My last name is Fox, but it doesn't look that way on paper.
Okay, any other comments from the members of the public? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 2916. Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, good. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, that takes care of our business here. Now we'll go to the board appointments. And it looks like we have Teresa Valenzuela to the District 4 representative to the Brannigan Memorial Library Board. And then Abraham Sanchez, District 1 representative to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Stephen Jones, District 1 representative to the Library Board. And Marnie Lynn Nixon, at-large representative to the Health and Human Services Committee. So next is, I'm going to need a motion and a second. So to reappoint Jesse Haas to the Americans with Disabilities ADA Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Jesse Haas to the ADA Committee. Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey?
Yes.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Sorg?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Motion is second to reappoint Russ Palmer to the Airport Advisory Board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Vasquez, second by Councilor Sorg. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Ross Palmer to the Airport Advisory Board. Councilor Abeyta-Stuvey?
Yes.
Counselor Vasquez?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Sorg?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Oh, she's down there. Counselor Gamera?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Motion and second to reappoint Rebecca Courtney to the City Art Board.
A motion?
Move to approve.
Motion made by Councilor Abeyta-Stube, second by Councilor Sorg. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Rebecca Courtney to the City Art Board. Counselor Abeyta-Stube?
Yes.
Counselor Vasquez?
No.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Sorg?
Yes.
Counselor Flores is absent. Counselor Gamera?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Need a motion and a second to reappoint Anna Baroon to the Convention and Visitors Advisory Board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Sorg, second by Councilor Vasquez. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Anna Baroon to the Convention and Visitors Bureau Advisory Board. Counselor Abeyta-Stube?
Yes.
Counselor Vasquez?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Sorg?
Yes.
Counselor Flores is absent. Counselor Gamera?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Motion is second to reappoint Jason Lawrence to the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Sorg, second by Councilor Abeyta-Stube. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Jason Lorenz to the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. Counselor Abeyta-Stube?
Yes.
Counselor Vasquez?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Sorg?
Yes.
Counselor Flores is absent. Counselor Gamera?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Need another motion and a second to reappoint Steve Newby to the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Sorg, second by Councilor Vasquez. Christine?
This is on the motion to reappoint Steve Newby to the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. Counselor Abeyta-Stube?
Yes.
Counselor Vasquez?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Sorg?
Yes.
Counselor Flores is absent. Counselor Gamera?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next we go to notice of proposed ordinances. There'll be no public discussion. Councilor can ask staff for clarification on the proposed ordinances. The first one is item 10.1, Council Bill number 20-026, ordinance number 2918.
Bring it forward.
Bring forward. Next one, 10.2, Council Bill number 20-027, ordinance number 2919.
Bring it forward.
Bring forward. Next one is 10.3, Council Bill number 20-028, ordinance number 2920.
Bring it forward.
Okay, bring it forward. So before we get to our member board reports, I think all of you are handed out, I'll refer to as item A. Just the two of us. Oh, okay. Just the two. All right, well, forget that then. Okay, so I'm going to read this. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, NMSA 1978, Section 10-5-1, ETSEQ, the following agenda item will be added to today's agenda, the hiring process for city manager. The Open Meetings Act provides that an emergency item may be added to the agenda and defines an emergency as an unforeseen circumstance that, if not addressed immediately by the public body, will likely result in injury or damage to the person or persons or property or substantial loss to the public body. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the governor of New Mexico has issued recommendations to all residents to limit out-of-state travel and has also recommended that those who have traveled out of state self-quarantine themselves for 14 days on their own for their own health and safety, and for the safety of those around them. It is necessary to consider how this limitation affects the candidates for city manager. So with that, I believe we have Barbara De Leon, who's going to share some information with us.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Barbara De Leon. I'm the Chief of Staff for the city. And I would like to just give you an update with respect to the schedule for the city manager interviews. We have 3 candidates who will be interviewed tomorrow. Due to concerns with respect to public gatherings and social distancing, the interviews will be conducted with the mayor and council only and will be done remotely via WebEx video conferencing. For right now, the panels with the community members and the staff have been postponed. but we will move forward with the 3 interviews tomorrow with the mayor and council.
Okay, so, and just for clarification, although I don't know where David is, but we have one applicant who's here in town, but to be fair to all, if we're going to do one method, it needs to be all, even though, and I believe even one of the other candidates is here in town. So just for members of the public and for members of the city council, anytime you're interviewing candidates for employment, questions have to be the same and the venues have to be the same. So,
Mayor and council, that is correct. They will all be conducted in the same way via video conference.
they could theoretically be upstairs and be on the video, but just Skype, however. Okay. Questions you might have? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Barbara, for your efforts, Amber as well. I know when I called you this morning as I was talking to Mayor, I felt it necessary and sort of a big responsibility to try to intervene to ensure that the candidates hadn't made their trip. And so I know that one is here currently, and one had asked to, it felt like he needed to abstain and stay in his location, and gave the reason due to the coronavirus, and I'd like to see that individual be a part of the interview process as well. I think that's only fair.
If I may chime in on that. So if you're talking about the candidate from Los Lunas,
Yes, sir.
did he actually have any type of communication that he has withdrawn?
Yes.
If he did, personally, I don't think that he's no longer a candidate. If he's withdrawn from the process, to now bring them back in after they've already withdrawn. I mean, that, of course, the council override that, but I mean, if they've already withdrawn, I don't see they're out.
I saw the message that he had withdrawn, so he has changed his mind?
Mayor and council, no, that is not the case. You did see a notification that he had withdrawn, and you saw within the notification the reason for his for withdrawing from consideration.
I think Councilor Flores, maybe Mayor Pro Tem wanted to reach out to him and see if he still wanted to conduct an interview. Is that what you were thinking?
Well, I felt like the reason that he gave was because of the coronavirus, and I didn't feel that he was given an option or a choice, if you will. So for me, I felt like since we are moving in this direction, and he gave the reason as the coronavirus pandemic, and felt like he had to stay back in Los Lunas because of that, then I felt like we should give him that opportunity.
If council wants to do that, I just think that, I mean, he's just 2.5 hours away. I would have think with the phone and other technology at hand, I don't know. So he hasn't reached out then. It's just you wanted to reach out to him to see whether or not he wants to do this.
He did reach out by remarking that he felt that did he use the word withdraw, Barbara? I don't recall.
Yes. Mayor and council, yes, he did say that he wanted to withdraw for the reason that he felt like he needed to be in his community because of the coronavirus outbreak.
Again, I felt like since we're being fair and objective and we are offering the Zoom, I didn't believe that Barbara or Amber gave him that option or felt that they could, given that they hadn't received direction from the council. And this is the reason for the opportunity to bring it up in an emergency-like situation so that we could have the discussion.
Okay, well, let's see what the council wants to do.
I think we should offer him the option and invite him back.
I would be in favor of asking if he'd want a teleconference.
I would as well, Mayor.
Well, we can offer it, but he's still going to be worried about his folks in Los Lunas, but sure.
Okay. Let's go ahead.
Mayor and council, we will give that direction to our consultant to make that contact and determine if it's feasible to include him as well, or if he has an interest in doing so.
Okay, so it hasn't been reached out to him yet. We don't know if he has that interest. He may say, no, I've withdrawn.
I just felt it, sorry, Mary.
Okay, all right.
Can we talk, is this a time to talk about the panels and when that might be, when we might reconsider that?
Yes, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, we, as I mentioned, we have postponed the panels. The purpose of the panels was for stakeholders and city staff to provide you with input on the candidates. Again, at this time, we decided to limit that face-to-face contact given the governor's and the Department of Health's guidance, but they can be rescheduled at this time. I'm not sure when that could be, but it's still anticipated that that could be part of the process given the direction that you gave during our last open meeting with respect to how you wanted to conduct the interviews for the city manager.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
I don't know if there's a technology solution to that via Zoom, if we do have some community members that have already agreed to be part of that panel that could participate in a Zoom virtual meeting with a couple of different panelists. I know I've been on conference calls with way too many people in the past that have faces, that you can click on as people are talking. So just as an option to consider that, because I think it behooves us to do this as quickly as possible, because I know folks put themselves out there while they're in current positions, and so to delay that process might not be good for them. They may end up withdrawing if the process is too stretched out. So just a thought on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor, thank you for those comments. What I had mentioned to Barbara was let's get through this initial interview first and then set up a time, because we can always do it the following week. And then actually, I think maybe at least the initial list that I saw, maybe half of them said they'd even come in. I was wondering if they were even concerned about potential contact, and so this might be something that they might be interested in. And so I don't really think there's a huge rush, but I think at the very minimum, this gives us a chance to speak to the candidates as well. And to be quite candid and to be honest, we also have then, if we're going to reach out to the fourth candidate who asked to withdraw, we have to reach out to the fifth candidate to ask if he would like to reconsider. Okay.
Mayor and council, we did receive some concern from some of the stakeholders with respect to the face-to-face panel. Yeah, sure. And Councilor Vasquez, we will definitely be able to utilize the same technology when we reschedule, the same or similar with respect to remote, if you would like to consider that.
Yeah. Councilor Bencomo?
Yes, I would like to see the stakeholder panel rescheduled for not too far off. I mean, I think a week away. I'm hoping that the stakeholders we invited to be part of it understand. I think at this point, we all understand that we have to communicate differently. We have to shake hands differently. We have to do things differently. We just have to adapt. And so, but we also everything can't come to a screeching halt, right? So how do we figure things out the best we can? I love Zoom personally. I'm starting to learn that a lot of meetings could just be over Zoom. But yes, I really think we should consider that soon, though.
Sure, no, I think that's fine, and who knows, next week they may be home more. So I said they may be home more, so I think we can probably get
pajama pants and a nice shirt, just be comfortable.
Okay. All right.
Are we putting a date tentatively in a week or 2 weeks, Mayor?
Let's just get with the schedule. Have Annette and Amber work with you all schedule.
Mayor and council, yes, we can definitely do that. We can look for another time and propose that. We would like to give enough time for the stakeholders certainly to adjust their schedules. We have community members who are involved in businesses and they need to make accommodations for their absence for a period of time. So we want to be respectful of that and just give them enough time to prepare, but certainly we can do that.
I do have one quick question because I've never done it via Zoom or Skype. And maybe this is a question for Jennifer. So does the council have to be together for this as and advertise as a closed meeting? Or let's just say hypothetically, one of the counselors could be fishing while they're doing the interviewing.
Mayor and Council, there isn't a specific provision regarding your closed session for a call-in. You can do that.
Okay, yeah, I thought that might be the case, but I wasn't too sure. Okay, well then that makes a little bit more flexibility on behalf of the panelists and council. Sure.
Barbara, so then the proposed, right, we had shifted the community forum to like a live sort of event. What happens, what then do we do for the public and how we wanted them to be involved?
Mayor and Councilor Bencomo, so what we had done for the community reception, or planned, I should say Plan B for the community reception, was to have the candidates, your finalists, each provide an introduction that would be live streamed from chambers and then recorded so that we could post that for viewing it at any time by the public. At this time, we were limited to call-in questions. I know there had been one suggestion. So we were sensitive to the fact that we did want to have something available for the public. And so that's what we had settled on with respect to communication from the reception standpoint.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for fielding those questions. And we'll kind of continue on with the meeting. Thanks. Okay, so now we're going to go to City Council member board reports and comment. So I've got just a few items here. There was a presentation from Movida, I believe it was, I don't think it was this year or late last year, they had a presentation, they talked about the successes that they had and what they referred to as a return on investment. And I think, I'm not sure, but it sounded, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was, Davin, when he made the presentation, was asking for possible increase to funding. Currently, it's at $200,000. The county's at $200,000, and they were hoping to go to either $250 or $275. And if that's okay with you, you don't have to say how you're going to support it or not, but I wanted to just give you a heads up that I was going to ask that a resolution be put forth, because it seemed like there was a few of you that were supportive of it, but I don't know if it was enough, because I wasn't counting, I wasn't paying attention. But I know that they're going to also be seeking that from the county as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, let me give this to you. Here's, should have enough for all of you. Here you go, Councilor Mayor Pro Tem. So with the schools closing and trying to, and dealing with the situation at hand, I've shifted Carolyn Horner, my policy analyst, to helping with the various conference calls that I'm invited to, both on a national level from the Trump administration to U.S. Conference of Mayors. And so I asked her to basically provide written comments as to what she was able to find out. And so this first page here you'll see, and then there's others that if you want to read into it, that's fine. There's additional information that comes from Washington, but I wanted just to share that with you. The other thing that I have her doing is a friend of mine gave me an idea, and it was called Adopt a Healthcare Worker. And so I just floated that idea on social media, and I was hoping to get 20 volunteers, and lo and behold, I got 21 volunteers. And so I'm having Carolyn also coordinate that. And so what the thinking on that is a lot of the nurses and other healthcare workers are working around the clock. They're doing things and staying extra hours to make sure that Las Cruces are taken care of, and our community. I know it's just not just Las Cruces, those out in the county as well. And so whether things aren't getting done at home, such as running errands or even cooking for the family, or now with the kids being home as much, maybe even just helping out on that. So I put that out there. And so, like I said, I received over 20, and I think I'm still getting a few in. So she'll be coordinating that initially with the 2 hospitals to see if anyone needed that assistance. The third thing, Mayor Pro Tem Gondara asked me, she was concerned about, and I'm sure all of you are too, with a lot of the hoarding that's going on, and whether or not how seniors are going to get their items and such. And I know there's been various things in social media about requiring stores to be open a certain time. So I asked Jennifer if just, and she hasn't fully investigated, but initially she said she didn't think there would be a problem. And that is, if we were to buy items in bulk and then have them distributed to the senior centers, and then we can't give it to them, but resell it back at cost, so that we can, so that we know that they're not getting gouged and they, or inconvenienced, not gouged, I guess I should say, inconvenienced, and then be able to distribute it that way. That's if things don't settle down. I think we'll still be looking into that and what it would take. And then the last thing I wanted to run by you all is whether or not we should have staff begin the negotiations to open up the armory, just in case. Just never know. What if? And I think Mayor Pro Tem Gondara was talking about even for not just the seniors, but then what about the mothers who need diapers and formula and such, like things of this nature, that they're not finding that either. So if we needed to have a distribution point, that armory would seem like a good place to have. And so if that's something we want to move in that direction, we can have David work with the chief and begin, because I think it was left open-ended with the owner of that armory, that I think we left in good terms. I think hopefully we paid him our last month's rent, Chief. Yeah, I'm good. Okay, so that we can begin those negotiations if that's okay with you all. Yeah. I don't hear no objections, so I guess we're okay. All right. With that, I'll turn over to Mayor Pro Tem Gondara.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm going to withhold my comments for the special work session as it relates to the coronavirus and what I think should be happening and how I think the city is responding. One of the things that I want folks to be aware of is we've had a few community meetings last week, one as it related to the downtown plaza structure, something that, well, of course, is near and dear to me, but I know to all of us on the dais here. Staff or city has hired a consultant, and they had their first meeting, and I don't think it will be the last meeting, but they've done some really amazing things with technology and a survey, and offered up lots of different ideas as it relates to the shade structure. I don't know how City Manager Maestra, how that's going to be rolled out in terms of having any more communication, or that survey in particular. I think it really gave people, they asked several questions. Would you like a still structure? Would you like a covering that we have mostly in our playgrounds that don't last a significant amount of time? I think all of us would agree that art is something that should be a part of that structure. And so I wasn't quite sure what the next steps were going to be as it related to the structure, but I think people have been asking, and I know we've been anticipating sort of when that is happening. So that happened last Thursday. We also had our downtown parking committee, and we also hired some consultants to come in because, as you know, our downtown master plan or our parking plan is outdated. And so we're working with some individuals to update that, but also to speak to the downtown parking situation, the parking garage, and what we should be doing. And I thought it was very interesting in that they've done sort of a technical sampling, a survey, and along with staff surveying, where they're walking down and doing kind of date certain surveys, like how many of our parking lots we've used, sort of other methods to determine what the parking looks like at any given time, some during the week, some during the weekend. And so that is on its way, and we will be looking for, I don't remember the dates without looking at my calendar, and I apologize for that, but there will be a date that they will be asking for public comment. And so I just want to let the public know that that hasn't been forgotten. And currently, what they've indicated based on the assessment thus far is that we still have parking available. And even when we have our farmers market, when that is probably one of the largest events and other events that we do have, but consistently, that even with that we still have the parking. And so it'll be interesting to see once they, with the final product, what they're going to recommend. Lastly, as you all know, I've been working on via the WE conference last year, and it's been a year already. Dell had a policy hack. The particular group that I had participated in won that policy hack, and so for about a year, we've been meeting, trying to look at ideas as it relates to women entrepreneurs in rural communities, sort of giving them resources with the idea of a time banking model. And so, Mayor, with the idea that you had as it relates to the adopt a medical person, a medical worker, through DACU, Carrie Bachman has a time banking program, which I think at this time is going to be a really important project for us as we roll out how people are getting their services or the food and that thing, and whatnot. So DACU gave us a presentation on Friday, and it's pretty impressive what they've been able to do. They have everything is online basically, and they people, if they're interested in providing a service, if you will, via the time banking, they have to get an orientation, and then they're put on this web-based program, and they have over 300 people that are offering services such as cleaning homes and or doing laundry, gardening, things of that sort. So I think when I think of that, I think of our seniors, and I think of our disabled population and people that are unable to really continue with, especially now. And so I'm going to make mention again that I think that we should reach out if you're moving towards addressing our medical workers to Carrie Bachman, who already has sort of a system in place. She had a meeting Saturday virtually on Facebook, and they talked a lot about the coronavirus and the different strategies to protect oneself. And then time banking per se, and sort of the needs that we are facing. And with that, Mayor, I'm going to close up. Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't mind sending me her information, emailing, and then I'll forward that to Carolyn. Although I did have one question. So were you talking about the shade structures in the downtown plaza?
I was talking about the downtown.
So I wonder if staff can bring back, because I know Councilors Abeta Stuvey and Bencomo probably have never seen, or I don't know, maybe you did, see the presentation. And actually, it was pretty good. if I recall, there were certain, and some of the colleagues that we have are no longer with us right now, but they were, some liked it full, some liked it half, and some liked quarter. And so, you know, it would just make sense to just buy the whole thing, and then, you know, whatever was needed. But I mean, I think it would be, when it's really hot, I think it'd be nice to have the full shade. And why you would just want to have a quarter shade or half shade, I don't know. But perhaps they're not here no more. So maybe we can bring it back, and then we can see if you want to just move forward with it, because we need to have a shade there. It's hot, summertime. So, David, do you think you can find that old presentation about the shade structure in the plaza? They were like not, they were just coverings, not complete coverings, but they were reminded me of kind of like what the what's that place called? La Placita.
I thought you were going to say Meow Wolf.
Yeah. The what?
Meow Wolf.
Oh, yeah. So,
Mayor, members of council, my recommendation would be, as we do with any of these projects with this type of magnitude and complexity and input from the community, we can bring it back for a work session as a discussion item. We can talk about what had been reviewed previously and what they have come up to date. As Mayor Pro Tem Gondar was talking about, they did have some very good discussions here recently, so we can bring those up as well so that you have an idea of where we're at and where we've been.
sounds good. Okay, so Councilor Flores?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if I may add to what Mayor Pro Tem presented or shared about the coverings at plazas, of what David Chavez was there. He's the chair president of the Downtown Arts Council, or the Arts and Cultural District. And he brought it to our attention that that we have to make sure that it's artistic. So it was a survey that was instantaneous. They presented different materials, different designs, this and that. And I agree with the mayor that it gets hot out there. And for some reason, I was in the minority, as always, about the cover. No, well, people voted. I'm not kidding you. This is probably going to come out into the open. And I don't know, there was probably about 60 or 70 people there. The turnout was really, really good. But they chose this beautiful thing that looked like a daisy, like a flower. I mean, it was pretty. It was nice to look at, like maybe an inside mobile or something. But it looked very flimsy to me, but people just loved it. They just thought it was great. To me, it would just, but anyway, it was a very, very good presentation, and I'm sure that Mr. Maestas will maybe get the results from that survey, and the architects made it, or the company made it very clear that this was just the first of many more to come, because they really want, and they just want to get an idea. Do people want canvas? Do people want artsy stuff, you know, the whatever. But I'm not minimizing the art requirement at all. I'm just saying that some of it just looked a little too flimsy for my likes. But moving on, so the mayor was invited to a luncheon at the Northrise retirement community, and I visit them once a month, and I'm really glad I went. And Councilor Abeta Stuvey was also there, and it was very, very nice. And I call them my peeps. And I just received yesterday, late last night, I received a text, or early this morning, from David Padilla, who coordinates all this, and said that that facility is on a lockdown. So Mayor and Councilor Abeta Stuvey, I think we're the last of the outsiders to have been with them. Can't have any. And I'm also very, very happy that the Ross Palmer was reappointed to the Airport Advisory Board, and that Rebecca Courtney was reappointed to the City Art Board. Ross Palmer is actually a pilot and has served on the board at the Airport Advisory Board. He's actually very, I'm happy to know that he's been reappointed. He's definitely contributes a lot. As to Rebecca Courtney, I can't speak highly enough of her. She works awfully hard, is very committed, and takes the mandate of the ordinance that they are governed by to fulfill it very seriously. And also the Sonia Delgado has started the IPM, the Integrated Pest Management meetings. There have been 2. I don't know how meetings are going to proceed here forth, given the, what is it? See, the, no. Yeah, yeah, COVID-19. Given the rapidly and exponentially developing horrible statistics. But there was some progress. I went to the second meeting, missed the first one because I was out with the flu or some crud. And, but I think that we are very well defined on what we want to accomplish by June, to have something to return to, or that body will return or present to the City Council. I don't know now. I mean, I thought at that meeting that we were going to move along, but I don't know what's going to happen now. I think there's going to be a lot of postponements as a result of COVID-19. And my Anna Age 8 book, I left it at home. So I'm not going to read to you today. But I know we have a lot on our minds anyway with COVID-19, and I think we all know that we should avoid all travel if possible and think about the 6 degrees of separation, and just wash your hands and stay home if you can and when you can as much as possible. And be well, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Sword.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your comments on the MVITA, the city has funded MVITA for $200,000 for well over 10 years. And so I agree, we need to increase that sum. So I would look forward to that resolution. And then I attended the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference, and I just want to give you the 4 main points that they are working towards. The city is, as Las Cruces is part of. 1 is building sustainable infrastructure. 2 is skilled workforce. 3 is ending housing instability and homelessness. And then finally, reducing gun violence. Also, Hill and I got from Senator Tom Udall a bill that he and Representative Alan Lowenthal of California and Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon has proposed a bill called Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. And I'll just simply say that it doesn't prohibit plastic, but it's actually trying to go after the manufacturers that use plastic in their packaging and so forth, and have them pay the full price of the cost of that plastic, including the recycling and disposal of the plastic. And cleanup. And it's pretty thorough. And so, but that, I would like to have us revisit, as we mentioned here earlier today, the city talking about plastics use in the city. And so, yeah. I was just going to say one more thing about the COVID-19. I was hoping that we'd find out from our meeting today just what the state restrictions are that has been put down because of the COVID-19. I hope that's done. So with that, I'll pass it on to...
Thank you, Councilor Sword. Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I have several things I want to propose in terms of COVID-19 that are potential ordinances. Can I talk about them now, or do you want me to wait till the work session?
You can talk about them now, or and then in addition to the work session, of course.
Great. I'll start with the lighter things first. I'm really glad to see David Greenberg here earlier. I wanted to commend them on opening 3 new community schools. 2 weeks ago, I attended the event at MacArthur and Elementary, and it just feels like such a game changer for communities like MacArthur. And I was so proud to be there. I'm so excited to be in relationship with the leadership and the principal and assistant principal there, and now their new community school coordinator. And so I'm really excited about that. Number 2, because I saw Kathy here earlier, I received my census form this past week, so check your mail if you've received your census form. Make sure you fill that out soon. How many of you have filled it out already? None of you. Come on. Just kidding. I haven't either, but I will soon. But just make sure you're aware of your mail so that you don't throw that out. It has a code. You need to fill it out. And then, so I'll definitely bring these up in our work session as well, but I feel really, really strongly about a couple of things that I think as a city we need to act decisively. I don't think we've seen the worst of this yet. I think, unfortunately, I think it's going to get worse for people, and I want us to be bold in this moment. I really think we need to consider emergency ordinance on a moratorium on evictions for individuals, for families and small businesses that could last for at least a couple of months. We are already experiencing housing insecurity in the city, and I think there's a lot of folks that are paying a lot more of their income, way more than 30% of their monthly income on their rent anyway. Given loss of hours, people staying home, not having paid sick leave, it's going to cause, the ripple effects of this are going to be intense and they're going to be serious, and I want to make sure that we're protecting our most vulnerable communities. So I would like us to consider what that would look like sooner than later. I would like us to consider that quickly. Honestly, I know that I also want us to consider what a rent relief fund could look like in the future. I understand things are really complicated in New Mexico given anti-donation, but given this emergency and given the severity of it, I really would like us to look into rent relief fund for when things perhaps even begin to settle, how people are going to bounce back, and I think we should be the front line of helping people with that. And then lastly, which I'll talk more in our work session, but I would like us to establish a local hotline for people to be able to call and figure out information here locally around meals, whether it's, and then getting connected to the schools, getting connected to senior programs, getting connected to the hospitals, whatever it is. I know that there's a statewide hotline, but I really think it's important that we have a local one for people to feel seen and heard and safe. And so those are the 3 things that I want to put forward that I would like us to consider urgently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And I'm sure Councilor Vasquez will talk about the last one you just mentioned, because he had a good idea, and I think Communications Office is working on that. But also, and I don't have a problem with your eviction, but I will tell you this much. It has to go through magistrate court, and I could almost assure you, knowing the judges, that if someone says this is why judges just say, you know what, we'll just give them 2 more months or another month, and so you can't move without that judge giving the okay to get them out. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Sure, and I think putting people through that entire process is adding a stressor that doesn't need to be added.
Yeah, and I think that they wouldn't. Well, I don't know. Can't speak for them, but I hear what you're saying. But I guess we can have Jennifer and her team look and see what exactly can be done on that level. Okay, Councilor Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things to get out of the way first here. I'll start with passing out copies of the resolution that Mr. Bixby was talking about earlier. I want to preface this by saying that I grew up, my first experience in New Mexico was right along the Rio Grande, or the Rio Bravo, as we call it, on the other side of the border. But I remember only being able to come to experience the river with actual water in it for a couple months of the year, but that was a beautiful thing for me and my family, me and my dad and brother at that time to enjoy, and never really truly understood why we didn't have as much water in the river as most other places in the United States, including northern New Mexico, right? North of Elephant Butte, you have water running through the Rio Grande year-round. And so because of our antiquated water rights system and the way that we allocate water in the Mesilla Valley and the Hatch Valley in particular, with the demand that we have on water-heavy crops from pecans to other crops, we don't have water here. We have to ration it, and we have to keep it in reservoirs. And the primary users, have to get their piece, or at least what they're allotted from the state every year. And so this resolution urges Congress to ask the National Academy of Sciences to conduct a study essentially of water management in southern New Mexico as it pertains to the Rio Grande Basin, which actually makes up about 40% of the state if you think about the aquifers and all the tributaries that it also feeds. So I would like to get this resolution with support of the council placed on the agenda for the March 30th meeting. If folks are supportive, this essentially just be something that would get sent to our congressional delegation saying we support a study from the National Academies of Science to conduct a study on the Rio Grande to identify opportunities to conserve water, promote ecological health, and benefit communities throughout the river basin, including the city of Las Cruces. I don't know about you guys, but I would love to have water, or at least some sort of trickle running down our river during the season when we're not irrigating. I think it's part of an environmental justice issue. It's part of a social justice issue, right? Why should southern New Mexico not have the benefit of water in their river? Not saying that this would lead to that, but I think it's important just to be able to figure out what water management could look like in our part of the state. And this study essentially would perhaps give us some recommendations. I will say the trend I'm seeing across the country in water management, especially through drought conditions in rivers, is that dams are going down, dams are not going up. So we are actually building less and less reservoirs as we better manage streams and tributaries, and very little dams. I think only 2 or 3 in the last maybe 10 years have been built in the United States to the scale that you would have a reservoir for irrigation and such. And so hopefully folks are supportive of this, again, just as a show of support to our members of Congress.
Thank you, Councilor. I'm supportive of this, and I don't have a problem in putting it on our agenda for approval, but I do have couple questions.
Yes.
So is this currently before Congress?
No, so this is, there's a campaign going on in the state from different environmental groups who are asking the members of Congress to essentially do this. Yep.
You don't think it'd be better if we zeroed in on one particular either congressperson or a senator? And have the resolution basically say, resolution asking so-and-so to introduce this bill or introduce this measure?
I mean, I think the most impact is certainly from our southern, at least Congresswoman, Representative Torres Small, and our 2 statewide senators. I'll get some more clarity on that in terms of who might be carrying the bill.
Let me tell you why, because I'm sure you all have, once in a while we get things from a resident and they send it to all of us. And I don't know about you, but I know Councilor Flores says, I'm not going to do it because you're going to be doing it. I'm not going to do it because you're... And then nobody does it. So I think if it's zeroed in on one particular, one in the House, one in the Senate.
I think that sounds good. And I can figure out the more appropriate person to direct this to, or we could do a general and then send them each individually to each congressperson as well.
That or, again, I don't know if Martin and Tom talk with each other. I think their offices are kind of far, but I think if we zero in on one in the House, one in the Senate.
Sure. I'll look into that, Mayor, to see.
That's my suggestion. If you want to do it like this, that's fine, but it'll go like how when we get those emails saying, hey, will you look into this? And they give it to all of us. And we say, I got enough on my plate. Let her do it. I
always figured it defaults to the mayor in those situations. But
I try to, but,
yeah. Well, thank you, Mayor. No, I appreciate it. I think it'll be good for...
Can you clarify before we put on the agenda what you want to do?
Yes. Okay. I'd like to just look into if we should direct it into a particular member of Congress, but the language essentially would be the same.
If not, we'll just default to this.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. The other quick things, also environment related, are, I sit on the South Central Solid Waste Authority Board, and part of some of the new regulations, actually not even new regulations, but the department, the Environment Department at the state of New Mexico has been staffing up, which means that they've been able to inspect a lot more public facilities as it pertains to environmental pollution, contamination, in our case, methane release. And so by virtue of that, some inspectors have come down to the Corralitos landfill, which is the city's largest landfill, and determined that the city is in violation of air quality standards as set by the EPA because of the excess methane that landfill has been emitting for many years. And so two things that we are going to have to do to mitigate that. One is we have to install a methane capture system at the landfill, and so that's pretty expensive. We have something similar at the utilities for some of the wastewater production that happens there in terms of using the methane to actually generate electricity. It's a really cool system that Dr. Garcia put in that helps actually power the existing facility there. So we're thinking about doing something like that, but at this point, we do need to get a hold of the methane that's being emitted from the landfill, not to be in violation with air quality standards. And so Director Peck is on that. In addition to that, we do also have to expand cell number 4 at the Corralitos landfill, which comes at a substantial cost, but because of the recent JPA that was signed by the county and the city, it allows the South Central Solid Waste Authority to bond out their own projects. And so this is exciting because we have already secured an MFA loan to be able to do this. But that means that we will start ramping up construction on cell number 4 out there here pretty soon. And I think the lifeline on that might be 25 to 30 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Garcia, but I believe that's what we're looking at. So those are the two things before getting into some COVID-19 things that I know we'll discuss further at the work session. First, I want to thank El Paso Electric. I see Rico in the audience down there. Didn't recognize him without his beard, but I guess it's a new look. You got to be professional now in emergency mode. But Rico, thank you so much. Thank El Paso Electric. They've suspended service disconnections, I think in response to a lot of concern from the residents and community for the foreseeable future.
That's right. You weren't here last week. His name is Rico Suave now.
Oh,
that's why
I like it.
Yeah, his hair's, hair's changed out, his beard. Yeah, okay, so Rico
I like
Suave.
it. Thank you, Mr. Suave. Thank you for that. No, I think our residents, I think potentially with both our utilities and El Paso Electric suspending service disconnections can breathe a sigh of relief in that respect, that they won't be disconnected for non-payment in the light of all the economic uncertainty. I want to say I also support everything that Councilor Bencomo put forth, and in particular supporting the moratorium on evictions if it's something that legally the city can do. I think, before people have to go to court for something like that and actually spend either the time or the court costs to even get to a point where a judge says, hey, this, understandable that you don't have to pay rent. If we could avoid that at all, I think that's another relief that our residents would really benefit from. I do want to thank Mayor, I want to thank Councilor Gándara and Councilor Bencomo and PIO's office for pushing forward an idea to have a centralized website for the city of Las Cruces, so we can have some more aggressive public education of what resources are out there. Of course, information about the virus itself, where to get tested, but as a place where we can actually convene all the information for seniors, for youth and families, for businesses in terms of what resources are available locally, what resources are available at the state level, at the federal level, whether it's meals assistance, whether it's what programs are still open at senior citizens centers, what city facilities are still open. Having one centralized information spot for all those things I think will be really beneficial, and I know the PIO's office is working fast to get that website up, so thank you. Also agree with the rent relief fund and the local hotline that Councilor Bencomo proposed. Did want to also just bring up something that another city did in response to the emergency, and that's kind of to have to basically be able to waive the contract amounts if it's in response to the coronavirus response, and so I know our current cap is $75,000 that allows administration to essentially sign without city council's approval. But I'm thinking, especially in the case of maybe even like the National Guard and reopening that if it's a contract amount that's set for the purpose of responding to the coronavirus, that we would waive that cap, or that we would hire that cap, which would allow administration to take swifter action when it comes to responding to emergencies without needing to have council approval. So something perhaps we can consider. I did get an email from a constituency about adjusting the max capacity per our fire code ordinance to 50 everywhere around the city. That would be in line with the governor's directive. I don't know if we have to do that by ordinance or if that's something that's already implemented because it's coming as a directive from the state, but agree that controlling crowd sizes any way we can is a good idea. I think we'll probably talk about this as well, but non-essential employees for the city, I think folks should be able to work from home at this point. I don't want us to be putting anyone at undue risk if they are not an essential employee, or if they can telecommute or otherwise do work remotely. Some other considerations to make are, I've been hearing a lot about the availability of ventilators around the state, and so it seems like a lot of ICU rooms are full that have the technology to care for the critically ill. And if our hospital beds are full here locally, what do we do, right? What do we do as a city? Hope to hear some more from our medical providers on that front, but it's something I think we should be prepared to talk about. The screening opportunities, I know the drive-through screenings were something that I think were pioneered in Colorado a few days ago or last week, but seems like a potential good option for the city of Las Cruces if we have funding available to do something like that. And then lastly, our shelters, services to homeless folks, the homeless community. I know at the Community of Hope you potentially do have a lot more people gathering than what is permissible per the governor's directive, but I don't think this is a time to deny or to otherwise exclude the homeless population from being able to receive food and services, and so making sure that that we keep especially those facilities that the city leases to Community of Hope open and operational with careful protocols to avoid the spread of the disease. So I think that's it for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Great ideas. I want to speak to one specifically that I checked into, and that's the mobile testing. So I contacted the hospitals, and the reason why you don't see so much here is, first off, the company that actually makes the kit, Tricor, is headquartered in Albuquerque. And so what they're doing is they're taking these samples, and then they're running it to the lab, and then they're just doing it there. And the second thing is the state hasn't given us that many test kits here. So that's something there that our legislators, both Senate and House, could push the governor, or maybe I'll just text. We can text her or whatever. But although they did give a person in charge of, I guess she put someone in charge, the name Zach Quintero, and I'll mention that to him to see where our test kits are at. So good. Oh, and then I think the things regarding what the city's going to do as far as employees is either going to be discussed at our work session or a little bit later today. Next is Councilor Abate-Stubbe.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll try to keep this brief so we can move on to the heart of the story. I have been very busy the last few weeks. As Councilor Flores mentioned, I had the opportunity to go to the North Rise Retirement Home and visit with their community, wonderful people. I also have gone and attended the opening of the Community Schools event. I had the privilege of speaking at Booker T. Washington. I attended the Mesilla Valley Leadership Academy Amazing Shake, which was very fun. It had middle schoolers that were learning how to be good leaders and approach people, and they were judged on how well they made eye contact, what they talked to you about, making all those personal connections, and really trying to put themselves out there to new people. So it was a great event. I also toured the NMSU facilities as part of one of my boards, and I was able to kind of see the history of where they've been, where they're going, and the future, and so it was really great. I do have a few comments about the COVID. 19. I'll try to keep these brief so we can move on to the next part. But I do want to say that I think we need to really be making sure that we are keeping as much stock into our PPE levels for our first responders. I do have a cousin who is in Kirtland, Washington, and she says approximately 75% of their first responders have gotten it. And yeah, so I think that we really need to make sure that we're being as careful as we can and keeping our employees as safe as they can too as they go out, and that we're working with the Department of Health. They had mentioned earlier at a session that they had availability to gather other supplies for hospitals. I'm not sure if that's something that we can tap into, but I'm hoping that we can work on those levels. I agree very much with Councilor Bencomo and Councilor Vasquez and making sure that we keep people protected and safe during these trying times, and making sure that nobody is left homeless. And I'm glad to see that El Paso Electric joined P&M and Excel in delaying any shut-off costs for electricity. So thank you.
Okay. I don't know if you have anything you want to share with us, David, or?
Mayor, members of council, for the city manager's report, I would have simply updated you about the COVID-19, but since we have the work session item, I will reserve that to the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, that's the shortest city manager report in history. Appreciate that. Okay, if there's nothing further, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Who made the motion? Councilor Vasquez, second. Vasquez, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Suppose we're adjourned. It's 4:36 p.m. We need about 5 minutes so we can do a countdown and get everything ready. So if you just bear with us.